fine and good, but the church started on the Feast of Pentecost.
Okay.
And so, and actually the Bible says, the book of Leviticus, it actually tells us, it says, you will proclaim these feasts in their seasons. So every time a feast rolls around, we declare that feast in its season. And I typically teach a series around it to explain it more, whatever, kind of approach it from a different angle each time.
Okay, so that the feast is feast and festival interchangeable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just different English ways of describing it.
I'm trying to make sure I get it right.
The Hebrew word is moadim, and it basically means an appointed time.
Okay.
And if you actually just translate the word, it means appointed time. If you interpret it, it means a festival and things like that.
That's kind of interesting because they use that term in Dune. Did you know that?
Moadim?
Yes.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they use that. Yeah.
Interesting.
So anyway, well, that, there's a lot of people that think that what Herbert was talking about was Islam and not, Christianity, but Islam. And so he might want to use that term.
Oh, right.
Is because it sounds Islamic. Mm. All right. So how was your Saturday? I got to get this right now. Okay. Shabbat is Saturday. Mm-hmm. Well, Friday night.
To Saturday night.
And to Saturday night. Yep. Okay. So anyway, how was your day? How was your weekend as far as that went?
It was good. We had a good crowd. Speaker wasn't terrible. So,
so Steve was preaching, huh?
Wasn't terrible this week. So,
Yeah. So what did you talk about this weekend?
I wrapped up a series that I kind of started back in December. There's a thing that happens in our community that basically they say almost everything is pagan. And I call it paganoria, there's too much of a reaction that they think all these things that are adopted in a lot of traditional church have pagan roots. And what they don't know is they don't. Right. Some of them have hints of it. Some of them are more direct, but most of them and how people see things are not as clear as their internet theologian has led them to believe. And so I was kind of clarifying because we do have a few people, but also in the future wanted to have people to point them to something so that they learn. Like, for example, people think that Jesus' name is
it's Jesus.
Well, it's Hail Zeus. Yes, so in Jesus in Greek. So they think that is Hail Zeus. And it's just because they don't know how to look at the etymology of languages or words and how all these things are translated. That's just one of the foolish things that are out there. And so I was clarifying some of those kind of things.
I think it's funny that you believe that is a knowledge problem and not a absolute ignorance. Don't have time. I saw it, so I clicked it and shared it problem. So
got the 45-second TikTok theology going on.
No, that's
there.
exactly what I said. I said they'll get something. And then they'll go, oh, that's interesting. And then they'll hit share
on it.
They won't even
see, that's amazing to me is that how many people see 30 seconds of something and share it with everybody.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be any research?
No.
It's going to be one of the longest and most uncomfortable moments when we first get to heaven. We have to account for every word, and I suspect that's going to be every retweet, every repost. It's going to be like, hey, you click share on this thing that was really stupid. Let's talk about that. I'm like, no, I clicked share on a lot of stupid stuff. We're going to be here a while. So
going back to the social media, I did mention this on Sunday, and you mentioned the word Shabbat. Trump has actually asked for a national Shabbat.
I talked to Enrico and Justin about that.
Did you?
This last Thursday. Yes.
And it's coming up this coming weekend.
Yes.
So on the one hand, I'm really excited about the fact that this was declared or done. On the other hand, it's a bit frustrating in a sense because, I'm seeing, people that are commenting or posting it, which is all good. But like, I was like, there was a minister who posted it and I'm seeing all this kind of excitement. And I told our people this on Sunday. I said, on the one hand, I'm really excited about this. But on the other hand, it's very frustrating because guess what? When God said celebrate Sabbath, that wasn't enough for the church.
Right.
Ooh, that's a good point.
When Jesus said he was the Lord of the Sabbath, that wasn't enough. When your pastors, every Friday we teach on Sabbath.
Yeah.
That doesn't make people do it. But all of a sudden a politician says, let's do it. And everybody's like, ooh, Cool.
do that.
Isn't this great? We should do it. Tweet. Everybody's on it. I'm like, you know what? On the one hand, great. On the other hand, shame on us for waiting to follow some politician to say it when you've not paid attention to what your own pastor has said.
So here's my question.
And not just your own pastor, but God himself. I mean,
are they saying that the Christian church should have services on Friday and Sunday?
I don't think they're saying that. I think they're just all of a sudden now like
I forget
excited
the man's
about the
name.
idea.
It was, like Solomon somebody. I forget his name, but he was one of the financiers of the revolution, and that's where
Chaim Solomon.
Yep. And I think that's even why we have the way the stars are set up on the dollar. Mm-hmm. It's in the Star of David. And it was mentioned in the proclamation about Shabbat. It was to pay respect for one of the guys that really made it possible for us to become a nation, and the Jewish influence in the nation, and all that other kind of stuff.
Okay. So on that hand, it's great, but it was a little bit irritating at the same time.
Well, yeah,
that you have to wait for some social media post to get people
moving. It's been in
moving.
the good book since the good book was written.
Yeah, right. Right.
Okay, so
but so has this whole people fall away, and a ruler comes along and goes, "Hey, cut that out," and they get all excited until the mental facilities of a gnat kick back in, and they forget all about it again. So we'll see.
So I hope that people do take time and do celebrate Shabbat, but I pray that something lasting comes out of that. And just the fact that people would follow a politician more than their spiritual leader, I think it gives a testament just how easily people can be.
Well, it's been that way
stirred to action.
It's been that way since the first king of Israel, hasn't it?
I guess in some ways, yeah.
Yeah, there's always been an aspect of it, but it's getting so bad, and it's why I did this thing because especially I see it so much within the Hebrew Roots movement that so many of them get their theology from the internet, from TikTok, from Facebook, from YouTube, from Reels, and they think that they have learned or they've got some secret revelation. And when you try and explain to them that these things that these guys are teaching were already dealt with in the 2nd and 3rd century, there's a reason we don't follow those books anymore. There's a reason we don't believe these things anymore. But because things like the Sabbath and the feast and all that were hidden from the church, that these were good things that God gave us. The Bible says that God says, I gave you these things for your good. It's good to take a day and to rest and to reconnect with your Creator and your community and all of that, and to celebrate the feast and do all these things. But it was taken from us. And so there's one aspect where people kind of have this knee-jerk reaction that, well, what else was hidden from us? Yeah. What else have we been lied to about? And then they just go down the rabbit hole, and then they just kind of lose all sense of common sense and decency and reality.
Well, and I think we've had this conversation in the past. Part of it is you're dealing with a group of people, and we are in that group of people who found ourselves a bit rebellious, quote unquote, to begin with, right? I mean, we had to look around at the current religious system and go, hey, that's not what Scripture says. And therefore we pushed away from that. So we are already kind of pre-wired to go, you're going to have to prove it to me, right? I'm going to doubt you until you prove it to me versus the other way around. So it's kind of part and parcel and nature of the movement that we find ourselves in, because the vast majority of us weren't born into this. We rejected whatever it was we were currently in to come into this. Mm-hmm. And therefore we've kind of already got that kicking at the goads sort of thing going on.
Yeah. I think there's truth in what you're saying. I think that there is a double standard with it, though. I think that, like you said, I think the whole prove it to me thing is there, but they don't ask that of the TikTok guy. Correct. They don't ask that of the real guy. They just take what he says as being truth and they post it out. But to us, who they can get a hold of, they say, you got to prove it to me. Yep. They have two tiers of two standards of, what's the right word? Of,
two tiers of standards.
Yeah. 2 tiers of standards. Right. So that's, I just lost my words. Basically, it's a hypocritical way of doing it. They're expecting more from us.
Yeah.
I was doing a youth meeting last Sunday night, and this came up about the youth going to TikTok and basically filling their minds full of doubt about Israel and other things like this. And so my youth pastor opened up the Bible and he read through the qualifications for someone who was supposed to be overseer of your soul,
right?
Bishop.
Right. Yeah.
And so he read through that, and then he asked the kids, "How many of these people you're watching on TikTok fulfill any of these requirements. And he says, you don't know.
Right.
He says, but what you do know is the people, the man sitting here, you know his life, you know his family, you know his wife. You can prove these things. Therefore, you allow him entrance. But these people that are spouting off online, you can't go and know anything about them. Yeah. About, are their children subject to them? Are their wives, following them? You can't prove any of that. Yet you're submitting more to them than you are to the people that are actually.
I said the exact same thing.
Did you really?
Saturday. Well, here's the thing. You go to AI, which everybody wants to take for gospel. And at the bottom of any post on AI, it says, AI can be wrong at times.
And I have found it to be wrong many times.
Many times.
But beyond that, it was Mother's Day as well.
Yes, it was.
So we got to celebrate our moms, and I called my mom. I sent her some flowers, my mother-in-law as well. So and then of course I celebrated my wife and my daughters, my daughter and my daughter-in-law's little celebrate, little thank you for giving me grandbabies type thing.
Yeah,
so,
I took my wife out to dinner yesterday.
Even though she's not your mom.
Yeah, she's not my mom, but she is a mom. She's the mother.
No, I'm sure she mothered him.
So, as far as that goes with AI and whatnot, and I agree with what you're saying, Scott. I have people who tell me when I try to explain to them that Israel didn't start in 1948,
right?
That want to, this said it has to be true. And I said, I don't care what it says. If it said, the Bible says check everything against the word, basically.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, then you're opening yourself up to all kinds of falsehoods.
Yeah. Right now, what seems to be popular to do, I don't know if you guys have come across this or not, but it's a moral argument that people are making, the kids are making, saying Israel's leaders are corrupt. Look at how much, the biggest gay pride celebration. Let's go on the list of all the corruption or sinfulness or whatever. And then, of course, what people don't realize is Israel and the land have absolutely nothing to do with how good the people are.
That is not the Israelis' land. That is God's land.
It's God's land.
Right.
That's
right. He chose the Israelis to live there.
And he said in Ezekiel, he says, okay, I've scattered you around the world, and everywhere you go, you make a mess of things and you profane my name. He said, I'm going to bring you back to this land. He says, I don't do this for your sake, Israel. I do this for my sake. I've taken pity on my own name because when I make a promise, I'm going to keep it. So this has nothing to do with you. You're absolutely unworthy of this blessing. But because I made a promise to my friend, Abraham, I'm going to put you back in this land. I don't do it for you. So if anybody has this moral argument floating around, you can very easily wipe that away if they believe the Bible. It has nothing to do with Israel. In fact, God so much loves this geography that when the seed of Abraham didn't do what he said, he exiled them out of it. He said, you know what? You guys didn't give my land its Sabbath. You're going to Babylon for 70 years till my land gets what it needs. I mean, it's very much about geography and territory. We mentioned this last week, that even when Naaman, he gets healed and he declares he believes in the God of Israel, when he's going to go back to his territory, he asks the prophet, he says, give me some dirt. I can take the dirt back, because they had an understanding of territorial, what do you want to call it? Spiritual dominion or whatever. And they knew this land belonged to Yahweh. And so he wanted to take dirt back with him wherever he went.
Are we breaking or?
So you wanted to steal something of Yahweh's.
Right? He wanted to take it with him so that he could spread it and pray on it. He wanted to make sure that he had the territory of Yahweh wherever he went.
After the break, I'll address something I physically experienced when I was there in 2012.
Okay,
cool.
It's 7:22. Got to get a break in. It's going quickly as it always does here on the Dave Ellswick Show. First show of the Monday this week, and we've got the Bible guys here on the Dave Ellswick Show.
You know your business inside and out, but does your community? With Salem Media's podcast and video production services,
making a point. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, so in 2012, I went on a tour to Israel, and we were taking our bus, and we went down, and I think part of the trip that day was to go to the Dead Sea, and then we were going to head north and then go up to the Galilee. And so part of that trip, we're in the West Bank in Judea, Samaria, as is biblically known. And there was a statement that Mark Twain made in the late 1800s that talked about how that land that was forsaken, but he said that the only people that remained there were the Jews, that there was still a Jewish population there. However, because the vast majority of the Jews were not in the land was dead and desolate because the not the Byzantines, but the Ottomans had a tax on trees, so they basically cut the final end of all the trees that were left on the land, and it was just a desolate place. What you see in Israel today is not the Israel of the Bible, when there were all kinds of different animals and trees and all of that. It was a beautiful wilderness. They didn't look on from the east into the west of Israel, a land flowing with milk and honey, and see a bunch of rocks. They saw a beautiful flowing garden-like place. And so now we're in the West Bank, driving north, and as soon as we crossed out of the West Bank into the land of Israel again, it was all flourishing, and there were palm trees, and it was all growing. And the guy that was sitting next to, and he just looked at me, he goes, "Do you see that?" And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Look at the land." And we look, and it's desert, and now it's blooming again. Why? Yeah. Because the people who are God's people that were placed back in the land took the stewardship of the land and started to make it blossom and grow again, planted like millions and millions of trees to get it to flourish and to get it to becoming a beautiful place again.
Israel is the only country in the world that actually ends up with more trees every year than it starts with. It should be, the environmentalists should be really happy with Israel, because they're the only country that actually sees something like that happening. And to your point, not only is the land blooming like the Bible said it was, but it's blooming out of proportion. Mm-hmm. When I say that, what I mean is Israel has a massive tulip population.
Yep.
Population or growth, so much so that guess who buys tulips from Israel? Holland does. Holland is known for its tulips, but they have to import tulips from Israel.
Well, and they've invented some fantastic technology too.
They have.
I borrow bits and pieces of that from time to time. I'm sometimes maybe a bit of a flower ninja, so we'll make these little seed balls with mud and flower seeds in them. And then maybe when I'm driving, I would never do that, of course, because that would not be cool. But maybe when I'm driving, those accidentally fall out of my window and into public roadways and places, so that there are some ninja flowers in places. But yeah,
this is weird. Anyway, so
agreed.
But that's one of the things the thing that brought that to mind is that's one of the things that they did in the early days is they were making these seed balls and just scattering them everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like we need everything here, because it really was a desert when they got there. So they just spread seeds everywhere just to see what would grow in some cases.
Amazingly, the date trees, for example, is amazing. So they have dates growing. It's exactly the same species as will be growing in Jordan or Egypt. However, the trees that are in Israel will produce, what is it? 3-4 times more than the exact identical tree 25 feet across a border.
Yep.
There's something about the land. It absolutely dominates, even with the same species of trees.
It's almost like there's a God of life that lives in that land, right?
That's right. Years ago, whenever going back to the dirt in the land, whenever I was in Israel, my wife wasn't with me. I was down there for a ministry event, and so whenever I was down there, we have.
I'm all right. We're running out of time.
So you want me to tell the story? Or you want me to wait?
Yeah, wait, because we've got to get to Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first, trapped in a timeshare, fees rising every year while availability shrinks, resorts making exiting nearly impossible. That's why I partner only with Lone Star Transfer.
All right, back with you here on the Dave Ellswick Show. Bible panel is in today. Scott is here from Agape. Then you got Billy and you got Steve, or to make sure they don't get in a fist fight, Steve and Billy.
No, you had the order correct the first time. I'm just saying.
Scott comes first. I'll just say that.
Okay.
You can put the other two in whatever order that you want. So a question for all of you. The reason that the land of Israel blooms the way it does is because of the desalinization that they've had there, and they can take the salt content out of the water, and water and everything grows and stuff. Was it a Jewish person who came up with desalinization?
Yes.
Okay.
It's also this technology is called drip irrigation, which is also a big thing. And also, the more trees you plant, you actually change the atmosphere, where it's producing more carbon dioxide. Yeah, and so you create clouds, and so you're getting more rain.
And trees have deep roots, and therefore they hold water. So a tree is one of the best things you can do for land, period. So you change the actual atmosphere around a region when you begin planting trees.
That's one of the reasons why whenever Arabs typically do attack Israel, a lot of times they burn their forest.
Yep.
Because they know Jews love trees, and so they start burning their forest down. And it's a big deal for a forest to get burned because it takes so long, to cultivate a forest, in that sense. But before we went to the break, I was talking about this thing that happened to me when I was in Israel a few years ago about the land, and my wife wasn't with me, but I was on the phone with her, and I was about to leave to come back home, and she said, "Could you please bring me a piece of Israel with you?" And she wanted me to bring her dirt. So I took a sandwich bag that I had, and I went out to the hotel I was at, and so I just filled it full. If you've ever been to Israel, the dirt is pretty much white, powdery looking dirt. So I put it in this plastic see-through sandwich bag.
You put white dust in a sandwich bag and then tried to bring it back to the U.S.
Yeah.
I
was up in Scotland at the time, but yeah. So I put it in my suitcase, and I'm headed to the airport. I'm in the airport, and if you've been to Israel, they run all your luggage through an X-ray machine, and so mine goes through, and sirens start going off, and you're standing thinking, wonder who that is. And so I was like, oh gosh. And so they pulled me aside. They say, we need to look inside your suitcase. I said, okay. So they opened it up, and they reached in, they pulled out this clear white plastic bag with white powder in it.
There you go.
And the immigration officer hose up in my face and says, what is this? And I said to him in Hebrew, I said, it's the land of Israel. It's Eretz Israel. It's the land of Israel. He just looked at me, and I told him the story. I said, my wife couldn't come with me, and she wanted me to bring Israel home with me. And I said, so I put it in this plastic bag. I told him the story. So he I guess, I don't remember if he tested it or whatever. He looked at it. He looked at me. He shoved it back in my suitcase, zipped it up, and said, what airline are you flying? And I told him. He then carried my bags for me to the airline counter, went to the lady behind the counter, looked at me and said, give this man a first class ticket to wherever he's going.
Awesome.
And I thought, every time I go now, I'm going to get myself an upgrade just by bringing some dirt home with me.
Right.
But there's just something about understanding, loving the dirt. The Bible actually says that we're commanded to have, is pity on the dirt and stones. So we're meant to have compassion, pity on the dirt and stones of the land of Israel. Why? Because it belongs to God.
Yeah.
And when we showed value to that, I got an upgrade on my flight.
Right. Turns out Pastor Scott is living on Israeli land. So many trips over there. So much dirt brought back.
And right now, in my home, on a prominent shelf in my living room, there's a glass vase with Israel inside of it. My wife still has it. And so every once in a while, she'll walk over and she'll just stick her hands into it. Just to feel the land, the land of Israel. I do it sometimes myself.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if Naaman did it, God kicked the people out because they didn't take care of that land.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, you know what, this is a good idea. So I have a little jar of the land of Israel in my house.
It seems to me that you're just helping them fulfill the commandment to let the land rest. Well, I'm assuming you've never planted crops in it, so it's just been sitting there resting this whole time. So
years of resting.
Yeah, you should bring a bag back every time you go and travel there.
Yeah, I could do that. Build a little garden in my,
yeah, because Billy's right,
Yeah.
I guess you could have in the backyard your own little Israel.
I could get a little small planter pot with Israeli soil and grow me a massive date palm tree.
There you go. Yeah. Maybe an olive tree.
An olive tree, sure. That all
start
works.
it there, and I'll guarantee you, if it's growing, it'll still be there for your, your family.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, but that's my little dirt story.
Cool.
I asked him to bring home some dirt. Naaman had 2 bags of dirt. I had one little sandwich bag of dirt. But it worked.
You got to start somewhere.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand that if you go over to Israel, you can go into Gethsemane, and there may be some trees standing that were there when Christ went to the garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know there's one olive tree that they've dated to like 2,400 years, which means that tree would have been there and would have witnessed the crucifixion and resurrection. So,
that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that really is amazing.
They have these things called a monumental staircase. It's the staircase that leads up towards the Temple Mount. And our guide said, Jesus would have walked up these stairs.
Yeah.
And as I went up there, I was a teenager. I went up there and I heard that. And I thought, I want to make sure that my foot touches the spot his foot touched. Now, these are big. So I actually
scoot back and forth.
I did. I stepped at the bottom
I see it in my head.
and I just scooted my feet like this all the way from one to this. Then I went to the second step and did the same
Just
thing.
in case he skipped a step.
So at some point, my foot has touched one of the spots where the Messiah,
you
the
could
Son
actually
of God,
say, without
walked in his
fibbing,
footsteps.
that you walked where Jesus
absolutely,
walked.
yeah. And I wanted that moment.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
awesome.
about that, and I'm thinking of how cool that would be, because that's when I go to Philadelphia, there's a church just like 2 blocks away where the founding fathers, most of them attended service, and you can even see where they sat in the church.
Yeah.
And the cobblestones that are there inside the church are the same ones when it was built. And I always get chills when I walk in there, and I think I'm actually standing in the place that the founders stood at.
Yeah. My son lived in Philadelphia for a few years, and whenever I went, of course, the thing you have to do is go to the Rocky Steps.
Yeah.
And when I'm standing there are people from all over the world, whether you're talking about the Far East or wherever, and they're running up the steps to do the Rocky thing at the very top. And I thought, this was a movie. The guy wasn't a real person.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're doing this, and you have the chance to go and see where the Messiah, the Savior of the world, actually walked. So why wouldn't you?
Well, that's like running up in City Hall in Philadelphia and dancing around the statue of Stallone.
Yeah.
When you can go to the church and see exactly where the founders, or go to Constitution Hall and see where they sat.
Yeah. Right. Or the people run to Graceland to see where Elvis lived, and they get goosebumps, and they're lining up and paying big money. Or you can go and see where Jesus was at. It's a bigger, longer trip.
Very cool.
But at any rate.
Yeah, but there's something to that.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel different when you do that. Did you feel different, Steve, when you were in Israel? When you were a believer?
Yeah, but it wasn't very extreme. The people will talk, they actually call it the Jerusalem syndrome, where people have these like really super hyper spiritual moments when they go into the land, go to the wall. But it wasn't very extreme. Yeah.
Now, how are you, Scott?
Yeah. When I first went, I was 18. And for me, it was very life altering for me. Yeah. Because for me, I found myself like, I had read about these places, but then I was actually in them. And so for me, it did impact me greatly. Of course, the more you go, the more you get used to being there. And I think some people may hype themselves up to have some sort of experience because they're hyping themselves up for it. But there's something about allowing yourself to be in that space. And now when you read the Bible, you just don't read about the Sea of Galilee. Now you actually, because you've been there,
in your head.
Yeah, you've got a picture in your head. You got the smell. You can hear it. So the Bible gets a life, a different life. The Bible. People in academia, actually in theology, they say there's actually 5 gospels. There's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and archaeology.
Yeah.
So this archaeology becomes the 5th gospel because you can actually feel the presence of Jesus. You can hear the gospel through archaeology and through the sites and things like that.
But it told us that even the stones would cry out, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's what makes what we believe unique. It is really not faith in the sense that it's blind faith, because you can go over and see all of these things. And one of the things that there's things that haven't been proven true.
Are you saying you're not a Kierkegaardian? I mean, you're not taking a blind leap of faith?
No. My experiences with God, but then two, when I became a real student of the Word, and then going to Israel and actually seeing all of this stuff is real, and these things really happened. And the other point I was going to make was that there are things in the Bible that haven't been proven true yet, archaeologically or historically, but nothing has been disproven. Right. So it is a historically accurate book. They'll say things like, for example, there was a time where they used to say that there was no evidence of Pontius Pilate.
Right. Now they know they was.
Right. And then they found a stone that was a repaved or retooled, reused stone, that when they flipped it over, it actually said Pontius Pilate to govern the prefect of Judea. So then what happened? It was proven. It wasn't disproven, but now it was ultimately proven. So the Bible is factual. And if you can trust all of the history, then you probably can trust the eyewitness accounts of everything that they claim.
Well, my position has always been it takes far more faith to reject the gospel than it does to accept it.
Yeah.
The land, the people, everything about it testifies to the accuracy of what's going on within Scripture. And it's like I don't know how you can read this book, honestly examine the evidence, and go, well, that can't be true. It doesn't make any sense.
That's like walking out in the daytime and being in certain parts of our country and look around, and it's this majestic beauty just blows you away. But yet you say, no, God don't exist.
What most people do was an experience that I had last week. And I saw somebody that had a tattoo on their wrist, and it said Yud He Vav He, had God's name on their arm, and it had a little cross above it. And I said, so you're a person of faith? And they said, well, I used to be. And I was like, well, that's a pretty big mark to take for,
right.
Like, yeah, I don't really agree with, some things that I've come to learn and understand, about the Bible. And I said, well, I'm a guy that would be loved to talk to you about those kind of things. I said, and they said, well, for example, I'm gay. And so I said,
and God made me this way.
Right. And it's like, so the problem's not with the Bible. And this is what everybody else's problem is. It's how they want to live contradicts the Bible.
Right.
And it's not just gay. It's people who want to lie, steal, cheat, commit adultery, do whatever it is. That's the main reason, because the evidence is undeniable.
Yeah.
When you go and read books, or like Lee Strobel's book on the Case for Christ, or if you don't want to read the book, go watch the movie, and how all of the cases and how many people have sought to try and disprove, and they have never been able to disprove it, and they have come to faith over it. And then what that forces you to do is now address your life.
Yeah.
And people don't want to address their life.
One of the hardest witnessing moments I ever had, we had, I think I was a singles pastor at the time, back in the early aughts. And we had a guy who had kind of fallen away, and I went to visit him, and we had some conversations, and he was giving me all the typical answers you get, right? And I wasn't willing to settle for that. And we finally got to a point where he just looked me in the eye and went, but I like my sin. Mm-hmm. And I went, for starters, that's the most honest thing I've ever had another human being say to me.
Yeah.
And secondarily, so do all of us.
Yeah.
Right.
The difference is that we try to put that aside.
Yep.
Now I can very with a great deal of joy say that he rejoined the fellowship and rejoined, and I've talked to him lots of times over the years, but that was a moment that kind of clarified a lot of things for me. And I started to say the first time, the only time anyone just flat out looked at me and went, but I like sin. I'm like, yeah, it's the flesh really, really enjoys that.
Sure.
But let's talk about why you should reject that. So that's the reality of the situation. The vast majority of people who are pushing back are either ignorant, they just haven't really taken the time, or they like sin more than they like the accountability that comes with Scripture. So,
one of the things on my bucket list that I would like to do is I'd like to go to Saudi Arabia, to the real Mount Sinai. Mm. And some of the images that come back from that, I went through about 7 of them on Sunday with our people, just saying the here's a concrete piece of evidence that the first Pentecost, because that's what happened. The reason why the mountain is there and burnt is because of the first Pentecost, the first Shabbat, 50 days after Passover. I mean, the top of the mountain is still burnt. The Bible says that Moses put up 12 pillars at the bottom of the mountain. The 12 remnants, the 12 pillars are still there. There's the altar for the golden calf is still there. There is stones that have great engravings on them of sandals everywhere. When God said, "Take off your sandals because where you're at is going to be holy ground." There's actually the oldest image of a menorah is carved in a rock there at the base of the mountain. I mean, it's just amazing, the remnants of the presence of the children of Israel at the base of Mount Sinai, and of course the presence of God on the top of Mount Sinai. That would be an absolutely fabulous thing to be able to do. I was going to go a few years ago, but COVID happened, and then the tornado came, and a few other things stopped.
Is memory serving me correctly that they won't actually let you go to the top of the mountain?
You can go now.
You can now.
Yes, you have to go. You have to go with the government escort.
Yeah,
but the government escort is not a Saudi; it's a U.S. rep. Yeah. So I have a friend who's gone already. I was supposed to go on that trip with him, and they have a government rep that actually takes him up there. Of course, the Saudis are going to monitor you. There's a fence built all the way around it.
Yeah.
But you're allowed to get in, and this is a controlled environment. You live in tents underneath it, and I think the Saudis are now actually. If you get to the top of the mountain, if you look down in the valley below it, that's where thhere building that city.
Neom?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, what a heresy that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's right at the base towards where you can see where they're building it. So I don't know if it's at the base of the mountain, but it's pretty close. But they were actually going to get rid of all that evidence and raise it. But now they're realizing we might actually be able to make some money off of this. So they're
because the Saudis don't have enough of that.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's take a time out. Then we come back, and I'll let you guys tell me what the city is, because this is something new I've not heard about. It's 7:52. Make it 50. Yeah, 52. Here on the Dave Ellswick Show. It's a Monday. It's supposed to be a high of 75 with sunny skies today.
The news never stops, and neither does your schedule. That's why we're here.
something in that last discussion that I've got to ask about. What in the heck is this city that you're all talking about?
Yeah.
That plays to Billy's specialty.
Oh, well, maybe not. But Neom,
part of it does.
Neom is, it'll never happen. Number one, they're already.
Well, it's happening, but it may not happen the way they're projecting it to happen.
Well, for starters, they've already spent the entire budget just getting the foundations down. So it's going to run probably 1,000 times what they originally estimated, which was $1 trillion to begin with, right? So the chances that it ever reaches its ultimate fulfilled goal are almost non-existent. But essentially, it is a line city, and so I used to play a lot of civilization type building games, and one of those games always have this final form where you got the entire city in a single building. Megapolises. And that is essentially what Neom was designed to be, that you would be able to live, work, and have all your recreation within a single building.
15-minute walk, I think.
Yeah. And you would never have to drive anywhere. Everything that you needed would be within 15 minutes of where you live. So you could essentially live your entire life never walking more than 15 minutes for anything that you needed. It's a grand project on the scale of some other projects humanity has tried to pull off on a couple of occasions.
but it's totally computerized in the sense that
it's all AI driven.
Yeah.
It was basically like a city, but it in the sense though it was built in a line, and the towers were on each side.
Right.
And so it was like a big wall of buildings, and in the middle was just like it would have grass and trees, and even had golf course planned in the middle of it, and all of that stuff. And there was been like a subway kind of thing that would have gone from one end to the other, and it was supposed to be miles long. But I mean,
I think the original plans called for like 5 miles or 15, maybe 15 miles. And it's ruler straight on the plans. Just comes in from the coast and runs however many miles into the inland, and it's the entire outside is mirrored glass, which is supposed to help with temperature control and all that sort of thing. But the technology is amazing.
When he says a line city, it's actually a line.
Yes,
it's
a straight line. It doesn't sprawl like ours. It's just a. If you look at it, it's just this. I don't know how wide the line is, but it's just a straight line. It's wild.
Yeah, and it's in progress at this point. You can go online and look.
So
at pictures.
Why is it built? Why is it so important to be a straight line? Is that because it's
efficiency? Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
Well, and they only need a single. You only need a single rail system at that point that goes from one end to the other and back, right?
Okay.
And you don't have to go
smaller footprint with the way they built the buildings. We're not talking about skyscrapers in the sense that, for beauty and architecture and all of that other kind of stuff. It was efficient, just a big rectangle, and then all the people that you could stack in all of those, but yet they could all go down in the middle of the street, and not street, but it was all a big garden.
Yeah.
And so it's just designed to be and basically entombed because you weren't going outside of that. You were going left or right, forward or backward, however, in that straight line. You weren't going out into the desert, north or south.
Yeah. But the thing that's really scary about it is the fact that it was all, for me anyway, it was all AI driven.
Yeah.
AI is going to run it.
Yes.
You're going to go before an AI judge, an AI policeman. You're going to have, AI patrol everywhere you go. Talk about Big Brother. It's going to be everywhere.
So it's a city. And why didn't they call it Skynet?
Yeah,
right.
So they actually invested in some of the Chinese technology because the Chinese are the world's worst, at least at this point, about tracking and identifying. And, the AI is watching you so frequently. In China, they know when you've had a bad day because you're not smiling as much as you normally smile while you're going to work. Because if you don't smile while you're going to work, you're in real trouble when you get there. So
do they have a measurement that says, happiness index?
China does. Absolutely does. They monitor your
face.
They monitor your face.
Your picture's taken hundreds of times before you get to work.
Yes.
All right. Let's take a break, and then we'll get over to the power panel. I learn new stuff all the time here on this show. Thanks, guys, for coming in.
Thanks,
Billy,
Dave.
Steve, Scott. We'll see you all next Monday here on the Dave Ellswick Show.
good news is
It's 101.1. The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. A French woman and 2 Americans have tested positive or showed symptoms of hantavirus. They're among passengers evacuated from that cruise ship in the Canary Islands and sent back to their home countries, where they are now in quarantine. Some 17 Americans are quarantined in Nebraska. The U.S. and Iran, again at loggerheads over how to end the war.
Their ceasefire is growing increasingly shaky, with the two sides exchanging fire in recent days, ships in Gulf states being targeted, and fighting flaring between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. The volatility could tip the Middle East back into open warfare and prolong the worldwide energy crisis sparked by the conflict. President Donald Trump is expected to use a trip this week to China to urge Chinese President Xi Jinping to pressure Iran into making concessions and end the current limbo. The president rejected Iran's most recent proposal delivered via Pakistan over the weekend. Bernie Bennett in Washington.
Generations of American youngsters have looked forward to school recess. Now a pediatricians group says at recess, it's good for children's physical as well as their mental health.
The updated policy statement by the American Academy of Pediatrics comes after years of shrinking breaks between lessons and worsening children's health. Dr. Robert Murray is the lead author on the study.
And in school, of course, the drive for test scores and things have really pushed other things out of the way, including recess.
The group says the latest research shows that these breaks are essential for kids' academic success and mental, physical, social, and emotional growth.
It has a very powerful benefit if it's used to the fullest.
I'm Haya Panchwani.
And on Wall Street this morning, stock futures are mixed so far. Right now, the Dow futures are down 70 points. NASDAQ futures up a fraction. Townhall.com.
If you're listening right now, chances are you're either worried about a parent living alone or you are that parent and you know your family worries about you. Either way, there's a great company that finally got senior safety right, Connected Caregiver. Connected Caregiver is everything you already know about senior alert devices, fall detection, emergency button GPS, but reimagined for today. A small wearable device alerts your family the moment something happens. Discreet in-home sensors, no cameras, no microphones, cover you even when you're not wearing it. And a smart pill box tells your family if medications were taken, all right on their phones. For the kids, you go from hoping everything is fine to actually knowing it is, even when you're across the country. For mom and dad, Connected Caregiver keeps you in your home on your terms. That's not losing independence, that's keeping it. Call 888-870-8020. A Connected Caregiver specialist who genuinely cares will help find the best solution for you. They'll even help check if you qualify for a free device. Call 888-870-8020, 888-870-8020.
With your news flash, I'm Trey Westerberg, 101.1 The Answer. Receive your dental implants and new smile in as little as 1 day with Little Rock's dental implant specialist, Dr. Samuel F. Jurek, DDS. Schedule your consultation now at JurekDDS.com. The Trump administration is moving to scale back hunting restrictions across national parks, wildlife refuges, and wilderness areas. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum says the changes are aimed at extending public access to hunting and fishing on federal lands. 2 Arkansas women have been arrested on felony Medicaid fraud charges after investigators say they submitted thousands of dollars in improper claims. Authorities allege one woman billed for services involving her own child, while the other submitted claims that overlapped with a separate full-time job, with both cases now pending in court. Arkansas State University is joining Epicenter Memphis on a new startup program funded by an $800,000 plus grant. The initiative will train Delta region students to turn business ideas into startups through mentorship, funding, and hands-on development. I'm Trey Westerberg with your news flash on 101.1 The Answer.
With your sports flash, I'm John Thayer on 101.1 The Answer. Arkansas softball team will host the Fayetteville Regional this weekend. The Razorbacks are set to play Fordham in the first round on Friday. South Florida and Washington also play in the Regional. In college baseball action yesterday, Arkansas was outscored by Oklahoma 15-10. The Razorbacks, despite the loss, took 2 of 3 on the weekend series. Arkansas is 15-12 in SEC's play, 34-18 overall. Little Rock pounded out 23 hits as they overcame 5 errors in a 16-14 win at Tennessee Martin. Trojans are now 16-8 in the Ohio Valley Conference. Arkansas State fell to Texas State yesterday, 15-9. The Red Wolves dropped all 3 in the weekend series. They're now 11-16 in the Sun Belt. Northside Power, your trusted name when the power goes out. Generators isn't something they do. It's all they do. Find out more at northsidepower.com. I'm John Thayer with your Sports Flash on 101.1 The Answer.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill wearing skates? If you run or manage a local business today, you're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help you increase your customer base by designing incredibly effective plans to reach your consumers day, night, and everywhere they might be.
If you're a local business and ready for the next step, Google Salem Surround Little Rock today. Our experts are ready to help you take your marketing to the next level.
That was an interesting hour with the Bible guys today. I learned a couple of new things today. I had no idea, never heard that story about this city that they're building in Saudi Arabia at the bottom of Mount Sinai. I thought that was very interesting. They're working so that it's going to be run by AI. And I asked him, why didn't they call it Skynet then? Mm-hmm. It would have seemed a lot more, truthful if you would have said it. Or Colossus, for anybody who's another sci-fi movie person like I am, and you know the movie Colossus is about a computer that took over the world.
Did you see the movie that came out recently where they had the AI judge?
Oh, yeah, Mercy.
Yeah, we watched that. I watched that.
That was
good.
I thought it was pretty good, too. Sarah and I went and saw that, and it's pretty thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really good.
But the thing is, the interesting thing about that concept is that if you don't put the right data into the computer to tell it how to make decisions, then it can make bad decisions based on
that. They've had that, but we've known that forever. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, that's
where that
literally
saying comes from.
That's literally what I talk about with the nonprofit that I work for. We're working on AI guardrails, and you have to have a human input, and you have to make sure that input's right because it's going to be healthcare. Like in everything, you have to have the right information. Otherwise, I mean, you can't like what I was saying on a podcast the other day that I did. It's called the Relay that I do for InTalk. You can't sue AI. The hospital's going to get sued. The doctor's going to get sued. You have to have human input, and you have to verify.
Well, for all the people who say, but it's a computer and it's always right. Look at the bottom of every answer you get.
It don't get sued though.
It says I understand it, but it says at the bottom.
Yep.
AI can be wrong.
Yep. And it is wrong a lot.
Yeah.
The thing is
wrong a lot.
The thing is that AI has computers are logical, but if you don't have the right information or the right parameters that you give to it, it can be logically wrong. If I tell you that 2 + 2 is 5, if I tell the computer that 2 + 2 is 5, and then I give it another equation to do, and it uses that as a basis for its math, it'll get the answer wrong. It just will. And so you have to give it
the moon.
Yes, that.
I argue with my AI all of the time. I'm like,
right. So
you're wrong. Give me the right information, and it'll go back and try to find it again.
Sure. And so the thing is, there's lots of faulty information on the internet too.
That's right.
And so if AI is looking to establish truth by looking at the internet, it may not have very good luck.
And this is what worries me about the youth in America today, and probably the youth everywhere, is that they believe just about anything comes out of their computer.
Yeah.
I mean, they swallow hook, line, and sinker. And AI is wrong a lot of times.
You know, something else, Dave, I think AI doesn't have the capability of putting something in context when something, just like you were talking about, is that you have to have a context part of it as well as intent. And that's the way our judicial system is set up right now. It's based on context and, whatever the context and also intent of the law or intent of the
I I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think the AI can look at context.
You can't look at morality because it's not human.
They can't do that.
It's no
obviously.
emotion.
Right. But the problem is that so right now, if you tell AI how to interpret the Constitution, if you tell it to interpret the Constitution based upon what the Constitution actually says, it'll be dramatically different than what the Supreme Court says.
Sure it would.
If you don't actually inform the AI of what words meant 200 years ago, when it was written, or 150 years ago, what was that? Do the math. But anyway, 250. Then it would also get it wrong because words have changed some, and so it may not be.
It's also going to get it wrong based on the activist people that are strict constitutionalists and people that are more activists because people write books. People, all that stuff is taken into consideration.
Right. So you have to. What is
you got to make
what
sure
is the
your
correct
question
information?
Is right.
Well, that's, I think a lot of it is that, Dave. I think it's all a lot about us learning to use it more so than it being wrong because we're going to put the right information in to get the right out.
The value of having an incredibly unbiased analyzation of something is really, really valuable.
Right.
But how do you push them into a corner so that they'll actually be unbiased?
You tell them stop being biased, and you also explain it to them. Like I have to explain to my AI all the time. I know what's happening. Don't. I literally tell it, and it says, "Okay, for future reference, I'll not do that anymore." It literally tells me, like when I state something,
but then it does it again.
I figured out how to. No, I've hacked my AI. I have a computer friend who taught me how to hack it, and I've hacked it.
Right, and so the
you put it in a certain. I'll show you.
Right. So but I think it's an opportunity to take, whether it's a passage of scripture in the Bible or maybe a law or whatever it might be, and say, hey, take these 10 sentences and explain them in pure logic. What does it mean in pure logic? And it may come up with something different than you've ever heard in your life.
Right.
Because it has the potential to completely bypass every bias.
Okay, so I saw. I'll tell you why I mentioned about young people is because they're starting to see young people going to AI and asking it questions like this. Here's all the things that I've accomplished thus far in my life. What else must I accomplish to get to X, Y, and Z? And it will tell them that, and they run their life on that.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
Sometimes it's utter nonsense.
That's dangerous. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's dangerous or not. They're going to do it because their AI said to do it. They believe it's infallible.
I'm glad to know kids are asking questions like that.
Yeah. It's crazy because...
But what kind of answers are they getting?
Right.
Well,
very
and that's
important.
the thing. Like what I'm talking about with nursing school. Like we are working with the nonprofit that I work with. I do communications for them, and so we're working with the nursing school. And this is the first nursing school because my grandson's mother is going to nursing school, and she did not like I told her she was having trouble with chemistry, and I was like, you can ask it how to help you. Oh, we can't use AI. I was like, I know you can't use it in an essay or report, stuff like that, but it can't tutor you. It can help you understand it. It literally helped me go in the back end of my computer and see if a video that I had received for something was tinkered with or not. Like, wow. And it was. And then we sent it to a professional, and it was. Like, it literally showed me that in less than a day, how to do all that. And it wrote the code and everything for me to go in and check it. But if we don't teach these kids how to use this in college and everything, they're not going to get the jobs because they're not going to be replaced by AI. They're going to be replaced by people that know how to use it and understand it and know that there has to be a human element to it. But if you're not allowing them to use it in school, like there's a Thomas Jefferson University we're working with them at InTalk to do a curriculum for nursing students. And they are the first school that I've seen that is actually have a healthcare AI course, because that's going to be huge. And everyone needs to know that AI is going to be part of your healthcare.
I think it needs to be, because I think
there also needs to be guardrails, because
there probably does. But I think part of the problem right now is that, and this is in a lot of different industries, is that you've got things that go wrong, and they're really common for them to go wrong.
Yes.
And so you have
transitions of care.
You have the technicians that, well, there's like, let's say with heat and air, there's like 5 things that go wrong, and it's when your heat and air system quits, 95% of the time it's
this is your health.
I know
this could kill you.
If
somebody puts in the wrong information, if it's just your air conditioner, your air won't work.
But what I'm getting at though is that sometimes there's things that are outside of normal, and the normal technician won't pick it up because they don't actually have enough information in their heads to recognize, okay, there's one more symptom here that actually points to something very different. And I think the AI has the potential to actually pick up on that and say, oh, this is not the normal thing that comes up with these other 6 symptoms. We got a 7th symptom here, that when that seventh symptom,
if you put all
present,
of the right information,
that's right.
Symptoms
That's right.
That's the problem that we have, because let me tell you something. I deal with nurses. They don't even read instructions on how to do a webinar. Okay.
Oh, sure.
So we have to make sure that the communication part of that is accurate.
Oh, sure.
Otherwise, it's useless, because you're going to kill people. I mean,
well, they're killing hordes of people now.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not killing them, but
they're
transitions. They're not communicating, and that's the biggest problem in healthcare. They don't communicate with one another, because each hospital system has a different system, right? And they can't communicate. Their systems don't communicate, so they can't share information like they should.
But people are dying due to what do they call it? Preventable medical errors.
It's called preventable readmissions, and that's what I do, and that's what National Transitions of Care Coalition stands for. I've done it for 15 years, and the biggest part of it is communicating with each other. When you hand off the baton, which is a baton, you don't let go of it until that person on the other end of it understands what's going on with the patient. Sure. Right now, they drop the baton. They're throwing it. They're not doing what they need to do to communicate, and that's where that's where people go back to the hospital. They don't. There's so many different things, like your medications.
So somebody needs a blood transfusion. You give them blood thinner.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they die
because people aren't reading. So that scares me, because they're not going to read enough to. Right. Do the AI, and that's frightening to me. But it also, like you said, it can enhance things on certain things, but on other things, I don't know if it should be used or not.
I don't know either. But you need responsible adults, and the big problem is that we're not producing responsible adults. We're producing a bunch of government trained drones.
Not everyone is government trained.
Not everybody. So.
Not everyone, Paul.
Not everybody.
Taking that broad brushstroke there, Paul.
No, but a lot of what we are producing is a bunch of government trained drones.
Yeah. And I think, and Dave, you and I have talked about the AI issues too. How it can really drive a group. But one of the things that I try to admonish
and drive them in the wrong direction.
Right. One of the things I try to, when I'm talking to some legislators, I try to talk to them about, if you put a bill through, make sure that you put the definitions, what you mean. Okay, and make sure that you put the intent in that bill, that proposed bill as well, what you really want it to do. Because what happens is that it gets lost in things, and then it gets into a court system, and you end up with interpretations, and that's when your dockets are so full.
But you can't sue AI. Again, you're going to be the one responsible, so they need to hammer that in, because what hurts people when it hits their money. So maybe they'll pay attention if you say that right there. You can't sue AI for that. They're going to sue you. Make sure it's right.
That's why you show intent and you show the definitions, what the definitions are at, or even put in some content in there. This is what we mean. This is a for instance. Okay, give some examples in there. There's nothing wrong with these bills. If they're going through and how many bills they pass, a little over 1,100 bills around there, average,
maybe something like that.
But that's too many bills, and they'll tell you. The legislators will tell you that's too many bills. Mm-hmm. They're looking at over 2,000 bills every regular session. And that's just who you can't expect to. I mean, a person is not expected to know all the changes in the law or new laws that are coming in until it's too late. And they get pulled over, they get caught doing it. And then they say, I didn't know that.
You could even have a law that's been deleted and the cop doesn't know it.
Yep.
And you get charged with it. And you might
ignorance
even be
of the law is no
of
excuse. Isn't that what they say?
What's that? Ignorance of the law
is no excuse.
Unless you're a government official.
Oh, well, yeah.
All right.
They just don't even care about it.
When we come back, I want to pursue this AI and beyond thought process because of what's going on in Virginia right now. We'll talk about what it is I'm talking about, Virginia, when we come back, and I'll talk about the story that came out over the weekend and made headlines in a lot of different newspapers that still exist. It's the Dave Ellswick Show. Back with you in a moment. Have you ever wondered how safe your money is in the bank or how to protect your 401k and IRA? Hi, it's I talk about the Supreme Court, and I will talk about the Supreme Court and what people are saying about it in Virginia. Now, the Supreme Court in Virginia just found the gerrymandering map that they did to change the districts and whatnot for their elected congressmen and congresswomen, et cetera, to be unconstitutional because they didn't do it correctly. So how did the Democrats take that? Are they willing to go back and change what it was that they were saying should happen, or did they come up with a totally different solution? Well, they came with a totally different solution. The New York Times has reported that Hakeem Jeffries and top Democrats in D.C. are considering asking Virginia legislators and Governor Spanberger to pass legislation to, quote, retire, unquote, the members of the Supreme Court and replace them en masse. From the story in the New York Times.
What?
The conversation reflected the desperation and fury that have gripped the party after the state Supreme Court struck down a favorable map that had been ratified by voters. The most dramatic idea that they discussed, which would involve an unusual gambit to replace the entire state Supreme Court with a goal of reinstating their gerrymandered map drew mixed reactions on the call, said the people, and it was not clear that it would even be viable or palatable to Governor Abigail Spanberger and Democrats in the Virginia General Assembly. So what are they asking? Very simply this. You guys go in and rewrite laws, and it will get away. You'll pass laws that say you got to get rid of these Supreme Court justices.
So it sounds like to me is what they did is they broke the rules. The referees called them on it, and the solution is, well, let's replace the referees.
That's right.
Lower the mandatory retirement age is what they were doing.
Yeah, the bottom line.
That's crazy. That's ignorant.
No, it's not so ignorant, because if they get it done, they're going to win. They want this new map. Believe me, they want this new map. It gives them 11 additional Democrat seats in the House.
People deserve what they voted for there with her.
No, but there's a lot of us are going to get it, because if they get 11 seats, they'll have the majority in the House.
So the same thing's happening in Tennessee, not calling for the Supreme Court to all be
gotten rid of
the gerrymandering.
But I think what we see here is that on both sides of the coin, nobody likes gerrymandering unless they're winning because of it, right? Like on either side. That's what I see.
So what happened? What do you do? So when Democrats drastically gerrymander their states so that they have a severe advantage, if Republicans don't do it, the Democrats are going to have a severe advantage over them on the congressional level,
and vice versa. It's going to. It's a back and forth thing,
right? And so what do you do when people creatively cheat?
Well,
and it's not technically cheating.
I'm about to say I don't think it's cheating. I think it's the way the law is designed.
You can't win without doing all this stuff. Then you got a bigger problem.
Right.
Than
that. So the system is kind of, this is one of the flaws in the system is that people can parties can give themselves a significant advantage by tweaking the rules.
Yeah. So I've been looking at it, trying to see what is the solution to this or what is the problem with it. And in 1929, due to industrialization, the Reapportionment Act of 1929 was passed, right? And it was because rural people were moving to the cities en masse, and it was misallocating
congressmen.
Right. And for that matter, electoral votes, because electoral votes are based on Senate and House seats, right? So essentially, if they didn't do something, then presidential candidates would focus on nothing but cities, and rural people would be left behind, right?
And they're kind of doing that to a great extent already. I mean, they have to, because that's just where when you go to Montana, you get one congressional seat there, or whatever it is, or is it North Dakota? But some of those places, they're very sparsely populated. Why would a presidential candidate focus there? Because there's hardly any.
Sure. Yeah. So there's a couple opinions out on how to fix it. I don't know that any of them would work, but stuff that some political scientists are looking at maybe increasing. So the House was capped at 435, right? 435 seats. And they're looking at, or there are people talking about, maybe increasing that number and giving. So there were 280,000 people that were represented by a single House seat when that act went into place. Now that same number, due to population increase, is over 750,000, right? So
somewhere in the neighborhood,
right?
Because Arkansas has 4, and we've got 3.2, little over 3 million people,
right? So they're looking at, again, I say they're looking at, they're talking about, I don't think anybody's looking at solutions because it benefits them for it to be the way that it is, honestly. And who wants to drive into uncertainty, right? I mean, that's because that's what you're going to get until you find out how it works.
And so what is the goal with the representative form of government? Are you trying to give various different groups representation that is equal to their population percentage of in America? Because the kind of the fringe groups, maybe they make up 3% of the population. They do not get 3% of the congressional seats.
All right, we got to get to the news. Let's do that. Then we'll come back, talk further about the topics of the day.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington.
All right, back with you. All right, now, Paul, I'm going to put some rules in place here.
Uh-oh.
Because I don't want to talk, about things that might happen, might being very, very little. All right. I don't want to talk about that at all.
What's realistic?
What is realistic to see things happen? Let me reread this beginning of the story to you so that I think it kind of sets out our guardrails on all of this. So let me get to it again. Got to get to the story. Here we go. The New York Times reported that Hakeem Jeffries, who's the minority leader in the House, and top Democrats in D.C. are considering asking Virginia legislators and Governor Spanberger to pass legislation to, quote, retire, unquote, the members of the Supreme Court and then replace them en masse. Here's what the New York Times said about this. The conversation reflected the desperation and fury that have gripped the Democratic Party after the state Supreme Court struck down a favorable map that had been ratified by the voters. The most dramatic idea they discussed, which would involve an unusual gambit to replace the entire state Supreme Court with a goal of reinstating their gerrymandered map, drew mixed reactions on the call, said the People, and it was not clear that it would even be viable or palatable. The governor,
Spanberger.
Abigail Spanberger and Democrats in the Virginia General Assembly. So put the guardrails up here now, all right? They're not saying, well, what happens if all the libertarians, somebody makes a law that says all the libertarians get to vote and we'll give them that proportion of.
Right. That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. So let's not.
Where is Hakeem Jeffries out of?
Let's not.
What state is he out of?
He's out of the East.
He's not out of Virginia, right? He needs to stay out of it. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Again, you're using hyperbole because they don't think that they're out of it. All right. They're very much into it if they're suggesting this.
So the question is, will it backfire on them if they actually do this?
Not saying that it won't.
I think I'm hopeful that it might actually would backfire on them in a big way.
Well, they're already working on that.
Dave, you said the voters ratified it.
Yeah, they did. 50, about not quite, a little over 50%. I think it was like 50.6.
Right.
Oh, that's close.
Against 49 point whatever.
So from what I understand, though, it was procedurally done incorrectly. I think there was a constitutional provision for how to do it correctly.
How to do the election correctly.
And they didn't do it correctly. So the Supreme Court says, this isn't valid.
Their own Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Not the national Supreme Court.
The state
the Virginia State Supreme Court. So, that's why Hakeem Jeffries is asking the governor and their legislators to overturn those laws, the right laws that have helped them be able to do it.
So they're obvious.
Because they don't care, because they want to be able to defeat the Republicans in 2028.
Remember what he said? We just got to win. Is Biden too old to run? We just got to win.
So, but the thing is, though,
Hakeem Jeffries.
But all they have to do is just go back and do it again and do it correctly according to the rules.
Don't have time,
and that's maybe the thing is that okay, well,
because
we
then
can't
they'll
follow
say
the
that they
rules
didn't do it 3 months in advance of the election.
Yeah,
which is why a lot of these states, like Louisiana, Alabama, are rescheduling the primaries.
Yeah,
they're rescheduling their elections.
Yeah, to meet within the law.
Right.
That's the reason they're doing what they're doing. It scares me though, because I'm going to go with what they said in Star Wars. Dave Ellswick from Star Wars. Remember when they did the gospel according to Charlie Brown? They did all the parables through Charlie Brown?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do it through Star Wars. All right. That democracy didn't die with a bang. It died with a whimper.
I just think if I was a Virginian, I'd be like, you need to stay out of it. You're not even from our state.
That's not what the Democrats will say.
No, I know, but other people, hopefully if people let them know, okay, hey, this guy may be over the Democrats and, minority leader in the House, but he is not a Virginian, and he does not dictate what our state should do.
Well, he's not dictating anything. He's asking the governor and the legislators to do this.
Right.
Well,
he should just stay out of it.
And basically the way that they're doing it is just what you said. Anything to win. Go ahead, Wayne.
I wonder if the Democrats are finding themselves on a slippery slope right now. And some things that they come up with, you just kind of want to say, go ahead. Just go ahead and do it. Let's see what happens. But and usually what happens, everything they do, just like this gerrymandering thing that they want to go in and replace the judges and stuff, it's going to get knocked off.
It maybe is, but the courts have been a big friend in their favor for the last 50 or 60 years.
That went out the window when the Supreme Court of the United States said you can't use race. Yeah. Because that was the way they were doing redistricting was through race.
You're exactly right, Dave. And that's what they were using. They were using race, which is unconstitutional.
But the Supreme Court was a significant method for them to get things passed, if you will, into law that they couldn't get passed legislatively. And so you had abortion being mandated nationwide. You had a lot of other just garbage that wasn't being passed with the legislators, but it was being passed with the Supreme Court. And just they were legislating from the bench, and nobody was impeaching them for it. And now the Supreme Court is actually making some progress back towards what the law actually says, what the Constitution actually says.
See what's going on right here, all right? The big discussion had started with the federal Supreme Court. It has moved out of the federal realm now into the state realm. They're literally trying to stack the deck for themselves. That's the object here.
Sure, it shouldn't surprise us too much. I mean,
and that's what everybody's doing, though, right? That's politics. You stack the deck in your favor. It's strategy.
Oh, sure.
To have the most votes to win, right? It's not happening that way in Virginia.
Move up on the mic.
Yeah,
there we go. Now I hear you better.
Sorry. It's not happening the same in Virginia as it is in Tennessee, or the same in New York as it is in Texas, and so forth. But that is politics.
And I think the courts have recognized, gerrymandering is legal, but not for race.
Sure,
I think that's kind of what came down.
That's what the Supreme Court justices said.
Right, but in Mississippi, political party and race align. So
in a lot of cases, that's true,
right?
And not just in Mississippi, though. Just across the country, to a great extent. Blacks overwhelmingly vote Democrat.
Right.
I mean, it's changing, though. That landscape is changing quickly, very quickly. I mean, they don't even want to be called African Americans anymore because they're not from Africa. They're Americans, they said.
I agree. They're Americans.
I do, too. But, they don't a lot of them aren't for gay or trans people. Half of them. A lot of them, they're very religious, and I think they aren't for the immigration, the illegal immigrant border being wide open. I mean, if you listen to a lot of the people, there's a lot of they're right. Not
so the Democrat
really
Party is
Democrat.
Incredibly stupid right now, and if the Republican Party would just fix a couple little things, a lot of the black people would just.
A lot of them realize that Lincoln was a Republican.
Well, sure he was, but the thing is that I think
that's who freed them.
A lot of black people, I think, would flock to the Republican Party if the Republican Party would fix just one or two little things, because the Democrat Party is just mind-numbingly stupid right now.
I don't think they need to fix anything because I've seen a drove. That's why Trump won the election.
Well, no,
that's literally one of the things that I made my prediction that he was going to win a landslide by was watching the black community and the Hispanic community, and not everyone that's gay votes Democrat either. They want a divorce from the GBT or they want the LGB and they want a divorce from the rest of it because they've railroaded them. So just to say that people that are black vote Democrat, that's not true anymore.
Well, it's still largely true, but some of them are breaking away.
Where do you get those statistics from?
What's that?
Where do you get those statistics from?
I think it's still 80, 85, 90%.
I don't
know the exact number, but I think
96% of African American people or Black America voted for Obama in
It's probably not that high anymore.
That's the argument definitely in Memphis right now, Val.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
I mean that the Democratic Party and race align in this particular area, and
it's true in Little Rock too. I think.
Sure, I think so too.
Little Rock, not the rest of the
place
state
where it's happening.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
the districts here around Little Rock that are predominantly black, you can't win if you're a Republican. If I understand it correctly. It's just like that's just reality.
They understand though that the black people, literally like Obama and Kamala Harris, sitting there telling them that we're keeping them down while they're sitting up there. They're not falling for it anymore. If you can do it, I can do it too. Like they're not falling for that nonsense anymore.
No, I want the black people to wake up and recognize,
and they
hey,
aren't.
You can do things for yourself. I do want the government to get out of their way and give them more opportunities to do things for themselves, and not by opportunity. I don't mean more handouts. I mean just get out of the way. If they want to open a business, let them open a business without jumping through all sorts of hoops.
I really think that if you just improve the education, it has a lot to do with it, because what happens is that you're getting off on things that are not. If they actually had a government class that they went through, a civics class again, like they used to when we grew up.
Yeah, just make sure it's not Howard Zinn.
Yeah, right. But at least it comes up and has some of the history, they're teaching history of our country and stuff, mistakes that we made that we don't want to make again. And the problem is that they keep making the same mistakes, expecting different results. And they want to try new stuff that has already been tried before. And it fails.
I think they realized that Obama didn't do anything for them.
Yes, I think so too.
And they realized that Trump has probably done more for them than anybody.
I disagree. I don't think he's very popular among the black community at all, Val.
No, I don't.
I do. I do. That was one of the reasons I called landslide. Whenever everyone asked me, I called it a landslide while all these other predictions said no, and they're using it based on the media. The media lies to you.
Val, I think
people on the internet don't lie to you.
So I think that Trump is probably more popular among blacks than Obama was, but it's still not very high.
And that's saying something, though. He's white.
No, I mean, no, sorry, I didn't say that. I didn't say that correctly. I said he was more. How do we say that? He was more popular among blacks than Obama's opponent was. I'm sorry, I very badly worded that.
I'm like,
Are
we living in the same world?
No, you're right. I was agreeing with you what I was doing. I was trying to, but I really worded it wrong. So the thing is, I think he was more popular than Obama's opponent, but still not very popular. So it might be the difference between So Trump had 15% support, and Obama's opponent maybe had 10%.
Right.
And so Trump is more popular than the other guy, but still not very popular. Yeah, still not popular. So it's not like Trump's got a 55% approval rating among blacks.
Right.
He's maybe got a 15% approval rating, which is an improvement.
Yeah.
But it's still not much.
Not a lot.
All right. Another opinion piece in the New York Times. I think this is I just hit a really strange spot in my show, and that I'm quoting from the New York Times twice.
I know.
I've never done that. Anyway, this opinion piece angered the online crowd after it was published under the headline, quote, "Forget climate change, Democrats need to talk about other issues," unquote. For the past several months, Democrat elites have been debating how much to talk about climate change, if at all, in part because these new candidates have narrowed their focus to energy, affordability, to win back the working class. It's like a striking shift from a few years ago when many Democratic politicians thought the promise of a Green New Deal would build a coalition based on green jobs and fighting inequality. The Democratic Party remains deeply unpopular. The way out is to stop elevating a litany of single-issue policies that appeal to the already converted. When it comes to climate change for now, it might be better to say nothing at all. That's from the New York Times. The headline for the piece, brought so much backlash from green-obsessed lefties that they stealth edited it to Democrats don't have to campaign on climate change anymore. This suggests that the Democratic Party base isn't ready to move on from a losing issue.
They said lefties?
You know?
The New York Times did?
Yes.
What?
So what do you think out of this one?
I think what they're talking about there is messaging. Do people right now in the Democratic Party care most about climate change? And I don't think they do. I think they care about affordable housing.
$4 gas.
I think they care about economics.
$10 gas.
Economics is going to, across the board is, what candidates need to be talking about, Republican or Democrat, especially local candidates, right?
It's the economy stupid.
Yeah. Even beyond that. Now talking about messaging, and because this small group that it's just like you talked about with Paul a minute ago. I believe in smaller government, but not to the extent that Paul does. And the people who believe that to the extent that Paul does is a lesser number. And the people who climate change is most important to them is a lesser number than the people who believe that where we're at financially right now.
Kind of the way I look at it, Chris, is that I look at because I'm an engineer and I've written enough of those proposals and different proposals showing return on investment and cost benefit. Is that if you actually look at the cost benefit of things, how much value does a person that works for the government, how much they add to the mission of the government? And I find that a lot of times you have in our government here, you have redundancy, that you have the same person in another department doing the exact same thing, same paper, everything. In another.
How many HR people do you need in government?
Right.
That's exactly right. We
Quite
have
a few,
tools.
unfortunately.
We have tools now that do that. But one of the problems is that you also have almost like a union, right? That where you can't let them go. And then you have the old timers that have been in there for 30, 35 years. And then you got a problem because they may have been left over from a previous administration that thought that, hey, I just need more people. But I actually see people that are getting jobs that because it's political, in other words, we're going to give you a job if you basically vote the way I want.
If you toe the line.
If you toe the line.
And that happens a lot.
That happens a whole lot. And I know Governor Hutchinson said he wasn't going to do it. He said, we're going to put a freeze on it. But I actually saw people that were getting hired that had supported, man, I need a job. Put me in something, so they give them a title and it's in there. The thing is, let's look at the cost benefit analysis of people. Let's look at it. Are they adding something to the government, adding value to their job and to the Arkansans?
All right, take a break. Then we'll come back and continue the conversation. It's a good one on the Dave Ellswick Show.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered.
reason I brought up this story is that this shows that within the Democratic Party, some of them do understand what the last election said to them. You can't run on a lot of the lefty positions that they have because most people aren't that form of left.
Well,
They left the field. You know what I'm saying?
And the climate change stuff, I think, it's been going on for quite a while. They've been saying, well, the world is just going to fall apart if we don't take drastic changes. And most of the world is going the other direction, I think. Or a lot of the world we're putting out more pollution, or not necessarily pollution. They're putting out more CO2, which is not pollution, unless you get way too concentrated. And the world is not falling apart. Right. It's just not falling apart. And so America is hurting our people by not allowing us to use certain things. But the rest of the world is still using them, from what I understand. At least some of the world is still using them in very large quantities, and the world's not falling apart. And so what we've got a bunch of what amounts to crazy preachers on the Democrat side talking about the world is going to end. And so the religion of climate change is just becoming like the apocalyptic predictions that preachers make. The world is going to end in 2027 on April 1st.
But you want to save yourself, put a wet white towel on the top of your head, and you won't be affected.
Something like that. Maybe put some aluminum foil on it or something.
That's one of the cults and what they say.
Really?
But you gotta
I remember that.
And you got to do it on April 1st, too.
It was early 90s or something like that. Yeah, I remember it.
It's just crazy stuff.
And so I think hopefully people are starting to wake up and recognize that this climate change is just that sort of thing. It's like these religious nut jobs that are declaring the world is going to end. You got to pay me money, right? Or join this commune and we're all going to drink this special Kool-Aid.
I go along with them when they say the world's going to end.
Yeah, it is. But
we're all going to die.
Right. But I mean, I'm sorry, your preacher, whoever it is, he's just lying to you, or he's delusional, or whatever it might be. And so I think that hopefully people are starting to wake up to climate change alarmists and recognize these aren't scientists. They're delusional. They need jackets with special buckles in the back. They're people that are not intelligent. They're not smart. They're not.
Or maybe they are smart and they're just trying to trick you to get money.
Well, that could be it. Maybe they're fraudsters.
They're opportunists.
That is another thing. Is that maybe they are smart. They're just criminals.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there just opportunists.
Right.
That's what they see a possibility to make an extra couple of bucks, so they do.
Hey, I do.
Born every day.
But not like on climate change.
Yeah.
Messaging to the smallest group of people won't get you elected.
Right.
Period. I mean, and that's what someone's suggesting there. And somebody who climate change is most important to them doesn't appreciate it. But at the end of the day, you won't have representation there.
Well, and when gas hits $4 a gallon, or $4.50 a gallon, or $5 or $6 or $7 a gallon in some of these high population centers, and people need it to get to work and do whatever they do, that kicks you in the face pretty good.
Well, here's the key: you go out to California, and they'll tell you gas is more expensive out there, but it's a lot more expensive because of how much the government takes in taxes. You don't hear the government of California removing the taxes or lowering the taxes because they can't, because that's how they pay for all the programs that they saddle you with.
You know, one of the we have a bill that basically raises the taxes on gas here in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. If we took that,
I'm gonna make you stop. No. All right, we'll pick it up on the other side. Right now, we got to get ready for the news. All right, into the 9 o'clock hour we go here on the Dave Ellswick Show. You were making a point, Wayne, when I cut you off to take the break. Was there anything else that you wanted to, say before we move on to the next topic?
On to the next thing.
Okay, we got the Democratic Party is in love with Graham Plattner right now. Some are calling him a moderate because of his stance on gun control, which differs from the average Democrat, so he doesn't want to get rid of guns. And others are speculating that he could be the presidential nominee. In an essay for the Bulwark, Jonathan V. Lass makes the case for Plattner by saying, right now, today, I give Plattner a 1 in 3 chance to be the next Democratic nominee for president. I know it sounds like I'm talking crazy pills. But before you click off, let me show you my work, which he does. It's good to see the Bulwark conserving conservatism. Josh Barrow said, it's good to run candidates like Graham Plattner who break with the progressive orthodoxy and shift to the center on issues where our party is out of step with the state's voters. So with that said, now this is looking at California. I think this plays out in a whole lot of blue states in the union. And Chris, you're our guy out there that talks to candidates. What do you tell them? Do you tell them like what the Democrats are saying? Yeah, go ahead and talk about what you think about gun control and that you don't think it works and whatnot. Do you think that that's the way for the Democrats to move back into power?
I mean, talking about what's most important to people is and do you really have a plan on how to affect it, right?
Affordability.
And that's what's most important to everybody right now, I believe. The economy.
They're not worried about the LGBT and all the other things.
Climate change.
Most people I talk to, they're more concerned about, am I going to be able to buy
putting
groceries?
Food on the table?
Am I going to be able to afford the gas put in my, or get my vehicle fixed? Am I going to be able to? That's the ones that actually do what I call the dinner table or the supper table conversations.
Yeah.
And that's where we really have to get back to is that let's look at what's important to Americans now, especially with things going on. Are they worried about the war? Are they worried? And what's their perspective on the war? What's their perspective on?
And I think people are.
And I think they are
on every side.
And getting away from all the other stuff that's distractions, what I call distractions, and look at what the American people are really looking for. So let's get back to that dinner table conversations. And that's what's important to our Americans.
Well, I think, and the gun issue, I think, was it a couple of years ago, where violence was getting pretty bad in some of these Democrat strongholds, and Democrats were getting to the point where I feel like I need a gun because the police aren't protecting us, and the police are letting criminals go, and so they felt like they needed guns. So I think some of the anti-gun enthusiasm was kind of softened up a little bit among Democrats because they felt like they were in danger for their own lives and their own properties. And so I think some of them softened up on the idea, you know what, I think I might need a gun because of these crazy people. And so maybe this Democrat is not so off base in looking at some of the way that people are thinking because, there's a lot of Democrats, they don't want to live in the dangerous parts of town. Mm-hmm. A lot of, I suspect that most Democrats would like to leave South Little Rock. Most of them would if they could afford to do so. But I think most of them would. But they can't afford it, so they don't. They live there because it's cheap. So a lot of people, they're afraid for their children's safety, for their own safety. And so a rational person thinks, you know what? A gun might improve my safety. And
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what you just said. Would people, if they had the opportunity, leave wherever they're at in bad circumstances? And I think what we miss a lot of the time on that, and a psychological thing here, is that when you grow up a certain way, that's normal to you. Mm-hmm. period, no matter if it's not normal, right?
Sure.
And poverty is normal to some people, and that's what they know things to be. So they're not looking at it like, I've got to get out of here. This is just life. We're just doing it every day, right?
Sure.
And I think, to speak to the question, I think that most people are moderates, Dave. While we all have very strong opinions in here, I don't think most people
do, are not philosophical,
right? No. They just don't. But people like us, they'll be 100%. We will get up and vote every time, and moderates won't. So they play to the extremes in these votes, and they have to, right? And to get elected.
And I think Trump pulled some of these moderates off their couches and got them to vote. I think it's one of the reasons why Trump got elected, is because you had people that were not voting that came out to vote for Trump because he was a breath of fresh air to them.
Right.
They were tired of the kind of typical politician that was kind of mealy mouthed, and then Trump gets out. He's kind of coarse and rough around the edges, and a lot of these people that really weren't voting very much, I like that guy.
Right.
He's like me.
Right.
And Bill Clinton was kind of the same way, I think.
Right.
But with a very different demeanor. Bill Clinton was a more gentle type, good looking, very well spoken,
but relatable.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Right. Donald Trump is more viscerally what?
A fixer?
No, well, I wouldn't say that. No, he's more hostile in his approach than Bill Clinton or Ronald Reagan, especially.
I think that's the
problem. He just cuts the BS.
I think that, whenever I watched him come down those steps and before that, long before that, when he was on some of the other shows, I remember he was very, very pragmatic. But as he came through, you kind of had that New York, what I call the New York type demeanor, and kind of like you don't put up with the crap. You just you cut it dry and go that direction. Well, he's kind of like that, and I thought, man, that's not going to go over. It's going to go like a lead balloon.
It went over well.
That personality.
It went over well, though.
But the thing is that a lot of people think like I did. We need somebody like that right now to straighten things out. When I asked people over in Eastern Arkansas, and I said, who'd you vote for? What did you vote for? They say, well, I voted for and I don't remember his name, but I voted because he has D after his name. I said, why did you vote for that D after the name? He said, because Mama did, my grandpa did, my uncles did. We've always voted Democrat. I said, do you know what Democrat platform is, or what the Democrats believe in, and what the Republicans believe in? And they look at me and say, well, I guess they believe the way I do. But the thing is that they don't know. And that's where I was talking about the education, is actually getting out and say, okay, if you believe in power and faith in God, so first I'll ask myself what church you go to, and they says yes. I said, they'll tell me, and I said, okay, then you believe in the power and faith of God, right? And they'll say, yeah. And I'll ask myself, since you believe in the power and faith of God, do you believe that it's wrong to kill babies all the way up to death? They said, yeah, that's wrong. And then I said, you believe in that you have the right to protect your family with a gun or whatever you think. Your gun, you have the right to protect your family. You believe in smaller government and lower taxes, don't you? And you know what they say? Yeah, I believe that. And the whole time I'm just kind of raising that up.
Okay, you're not a Democrat.
Yeah. And then I just hold my hand out and says, welcome to the Republican Party. As we got that and said, what do you mean? I said, well, let me show you what the Democrats believe in. They believe they've taken God out of all their campaign material. This is the Democrat Party. Okay, it's not individuals like you're working with.
Because most individuals don't feel that way.
No, I
know. But when the party does, right?
The party,
that's what.
Yeah. And you see at the state level, Arkansans are pretty conservative. Even the Democrats, I think, are still pretty conservative. Yeah. But a lot of the Democrats who are elected are not conservative. Right. They're still pretty flaming crazy lefties.
Or the Democrats tell you that the Republicans are going to take your Social Security, they're going to take your food stamps, and then they scare them.
Yeah. And I wish Republicans would actually stand up on Social Security and make some significant reforms, but they're too cowardly for that in most cases. But the Democrats
third rail politics.
But
that's why entitlements are bad. Never get rid of them.
No, yeah, never should have existed in the first place. But
Paul, you've been on my show long enough that you remember when we had the big fight over Obamacare, and
Obamacare expansion.
Yeah, and I would ask the Republicans, what are you going to do if you put all these people on a social program, and then you come along and you go, now we're going to remove you from that social program after they've gotten used to it. What are they going? You think they're going to vote for you or vote for somebody else?
They're going to scream like a bunch of pigs who are sucking on a sow.
Well, that's what they're doing now, like about the food stamp thing. You know, I was reading an article about everyone is on food stamps. Their looming federal cuts prompt concerns about food aid in Arkansas. And it starts out saying Fayetteville resident Jen Cole tries her best to use her monthly $20 in nutrition assistance on what she needs most, but it still doesn't go very far. She says, this month, I was like, okay, I need olive oil for healthy cooking, and I need smoked paprika. And that's going to take up most of my I'm sorry, but you're not poor. If you're worried about getting smoked paprika, you're not poor. Okay? And you need to that's the problem. That is the problem. Right there.
You're saying that things are getting abused?
It's ridiculous. Olive oil and smoked paprika is not what poor people eat.
And the outcry about not being able to buy candy and Cokes with SNAP benefits. Like, I'm sorry. So, if I was poor and I asked, can you help me out?
But she has pink hair.
Yeah,
she has money to buy her pink dye.
But
you look at the picture in here, she has pink hair.
But if I ask somebody to help me, maybe I broke my leg and I'm really struggling. I need some help. And I said, hey, can you go to the grocery store with me and help me get some food to eat? I'm not going to go to the Coke aisle and the chip aisle and buy a bunch of expensive stuff. I need to feed my family. Let's get some chicken leg quarters. Cheap.
I'm going to completely just say you're wrong. All right. That's not true. That's just not true. People who are poor want Diet Coke and they want all of that. Just like
they do. I'm just saying it's not a reasonable thing to do. Just say I want other people to pay for my Diet Coke and my expensive habits.
I'll buy you a $3 case of water. How's that?
They don't see any problem with that.
I'll buy you a $3 case of water versus a $10 12-pack of Coke.
I'll make my point by going back to the Pulaski Quorum Court several years back when they were arguing over whether they deserved the pay raise or not.
Oh, I remember that.
And they were going to they were not going to give the pay raise. I don't remember who the gentleman's name was. It was a black quorum court member. And he said, but I want to see us get that pay raise because that's how I buy my grandbabies their ice cream and all this other special stuff I buy for them. Now, he just spoke the truth to you about how a lot of people view social programs.
It's mine. I'm entitled to it.
That's exactly right. No, and you know what? The Republicans have allowed the Democrats to move that line up higher and higher so that you're taking in a good portion of the middle class now, and they think
they're entitled.
They're entitled to it.
And it's just disgusting for those of us that think, when you're asking for charity to buy soft drinks and chips and cookies and candy, I'm sorry.
When's the last time you heard food stamps referred to as charity, Paul?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's not charity. It's more like theft.
They got no. Come on. I want you to be honest right now. You got to think like the way Democrats think. When did you ever hear a Democrat say they didn't want to take charity?
I don't know if I recall the last time I heard it.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think charity is a word that's used very much anymore.
Nope.
Actually, I think it's kind of
Gimme.
entirely nonprofit is a lot of, which is a real term, but charity is what it was called for years and years and years. And yes, that's a word that is almost a dirty word anymore.
Yeah, I use it when I'm discussing these issues, but it's like, okay, do you want the government to perform charity programs on your behalf.
But then it becomes compulsory charity.
No, that's the thing, is it's not charity when it's
that's exactly right. When it's taken from you, it is not charity.
That's right.
It's just organized crime.
And when you have compulsory charity, you have a different demographics. You have the one side, you have the entitlement, as well as, and if you don't give it to them, then you're a victim. And on the other side, the ones that actually gave charity from the heart, personal charity, they start getting pissed off a little bit. Why am I doing this? Why are you taking money from me and giving it to somebody else? That's not right. That's not charity. I mean, it's whenever you do compulsory charity, it's not charity.
That's why they don't use the word any longer. It's 9:21. We'll be back in a moment.
We bring you the biggest news stories of the day. Not to tell you what to think, but to allow you to have the most. Is 101.1 The Answer.
All right, back with you, Dave Ellswick Show. But that's what, when I get into those discussions at that time about Obamacare, and they were saying, well, we're going to just do it with the Republican way. And I would look at them and I'd say, tell me, what's the name of it again?
Obamacare.
Okay, Obamacare.
Let's have some Republican Obamacare.
I don't hear us calling it Reagan Care or something that a Republican identifies with. It's Obamacare. If his name is on the first of it, don't expect any kind of conservatism.
Well, and it's not conservative, but I think part of their push to get it, they really wanted it was going to bring more money into the state and enrich the state with federal dollars. It's free money. How do we get free money? And a lot of the state legislators have been duped into or suckered into, well, we're going to pass these laws because the federal government promised to pay us money if we pass these laws. And we've got them all over the place. Seatbelt laws are one of those things. I think speed limit laws probably related to that. I think they had motorcycle helmet laws for a while that related to that, but that was repealed. But there's lots of laws on the books that get passed because the federal government promises to pay the states money if they'll pass these laws. a lot of the laws are human rights violations. They're just violating people's rights. Like, you can go to jail if you don't comply with seatbelt laws. I mean, that's not the penalty, but if you don't comply, they will put you in jail. And it's just the state government passing laws because the federal government promised to give them money, and so they pass them. And I think this is one of those things that, this is, I think these Republicans were saying, this is a way for us to get more money from the federal government. If we change this up a little bit, we can drag more money into the state and put more Arkansans on medical welfare.
And the reason it failed is because why? Because Margaret Thatcher was right. The big problem with socialism is sooner or later you run out of other people's money. And whether you like it or not, all the people who want the government to take care of them, at that point, there's only a finite amount of dollars out there. Canada is a perfect example of this. All you got to do is look right across the border, and you see that they say, well, we can take care of you for this particular disease, but only up until July, and then you're going to have to wait until the next fiscal session that we have, you can call it that, and we get some more money, the replenishment in there, and then we can look at you getting over to see a doctor about should you be should it be okay?
But we have this alternative program where you can put yourself to death.
Yeah, there's a there's a lot of truth to that. But the bottom line is, right now in a lot of boardrooms and hospitals, they have those discussions every day. And it is, you got a 78-year-old guy that's got a disease. You got a 27-year-old father of two. And they say, who should get the treatment? And they decide to go with the 27-year-old and the father of two, not with the old man who's, quote, already lived their life. Or as the governor of Colorado said back in the 80s, life should be like the leaf of a tree. When your time is up, you should detach yourself from the tree and fall to the ground and go back into the ground.
Yeah, you got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel.
Yeah, I don't even know. I think it's more than, I think it's, you got on snot, to be honest. And it's really slippery.
But the thing is, though, you've got, when the care is being rationed, you've only got so much available because the government is so involved.
That's what I just said.
I know, and that's the problem, is that government gets involved, and so we don't have a marketplace to set pricing
so behind closed doors, they decide who lives and who dies.
Right, and it has to happen that way.
We had
if you go with the
if you go with the socialist program,
most of the hospitals that we had, they have names on them from churches, Catholic Church or St. Vincent's or something like that. The churches ran most of the hospitals and most of the healthcare system. I think what happened is that the government thought, well, we can do that.
There's some power there. Yeah, we can get some political power if we start doing this sort of thing.
And churches were doing fine, in my opinion. I thought they were doing a great job because you actually had charity that was involved. It wasn't compulsory.
Well, and then you can also look and say, the churches can look and say, you know what, you've got to stop eating yourself into the point where you're 400 pounds. We're not going to help you with a diabetes treatment because you're not even trying.
Yeah, so that's the problem with it. Whether we're talking about the healthcare or the supplemental money, it's the abuse of it. We believe in feeding hungry people. We don't believe that children should not receive medical care. And I know that personally, we're for making sure those things are taken care of.
Chris, I want you to continue on with that when we come back from the news.
Thomason in Washington. California man accused of spraying the White House Correspondents Association dinner late last month.
sharing with these guys earlier while we were sitting here that it's only been a couple of weeks that I'll admit that I'm getting older. And I do it because, if you take the numbers that go along with me, I'm older. But I can tell you this much, I'm totally different than what my daddy was at this age. All right, completely. In the way that I look at being aged and what do I do, and what I can do, because I was a gym rat when I was younger. And my age hasn't caught up with that yet. One day it will. It's a foregone conclusion that age is going to win out in the end. But I sure as hell can do a lot of things to try to mitigate it.
I mean, you can't fight it.
That's exactly right. So I try. But here's what I hear anymore, and it's this whole thing, and it started in the 70s. It didn't start now here in the 2000s. It started back in the late 70s. And I tell this story from time to time. It was when you used to watch cable TV in the morning, and they had like flip cards, and they would have a story on a flip card, and then it would flip down and you read the next story. You actually had to read it. They didn't tell you about it. There was no 24/7 news cycle or any of that. Turner hadn't thought of that up yet. But here's what the World Council of Churches, and they're a very liberal group, and they made the statement that churches, it wasn't their responsibility anymore to take care of the poor because the government was taxing people to get people the money or the products, whichever, to not be poor. So it abrogated the church of its responsibilities. No, I thought to myself then, I still believe it today. I still give over 10% of what I make in whatever paycheck that comes into me. I give the church that money, and that's for them to run programs that I know that they'll take care of the widows and the orphans. But the National Council of Churches said because the federal government was doing it, you were abrogated of having to do it in the church. That's a perfect example of how people look at things now.
Well, they look at that church model that you're talking about. The church actually controlled the hospitals, the other things like that. I know they had charity. Churches used to have, if you needed help and you couldn't afford it, you went to the charity hospital. I know that was in Louisiana, there in Monroe, and up in some of the other parts of Louisiana. And I know it was here too. But now you got that. I think they saw the power. I think government saw, hey, there's some power there to be had. There's some money involved too, a lot of money. And so if we can do that, we can have some control over people.
I've always had this question, Wayne, and that is, how can a hospital say that they're not for profit, but they've got millions of dollars at their disposal?
Oh, they're a business. That's what people forget too when they send you back over and over and over. They're business. Every time you come back, they get paid.
They still have all the employees are there for profit, essentially. I mean, they're still making money, but they're just their corporation is technically nonprofit.
They're taking the money, and
they're taking the money.
Okay,
You're
so
right.
if they're taking the money, then they're for profit. They're not a charity that doesn't make a profit.
No. So there's, I guess there's, and you maybe know this better than I do, but Chris, like there's for-profit corporations, there's not-for-profit, and then there's non-profit. So I think a not-for-profit might be a service that you provide. You're not trying to make, it's not for the purpose of making a profit. It's for providing a service that needs to be, I think the one call system where they find the lines, it's a not for profit.
I don't know where the defining line is,
but
But I know
might
that,
explain that kind of
different entities, but I don't know that. But I do know that it does require money to run a nonprofit.
Sure,
definitely. I mean, and to what level you run it to.
And I have no problem with that if at the end of the year their ledger said zero.
Right.
It doesn't say zero. I'm just telling you, it doesn't say zero.
But maybe with nonprofits, shareholders don't get dividends. I don't know. Maybe that's how that works. Is that with a for-profit business, the shareholders expect to make money off of it, whereas the not-for-profit or the nonprofit entities. And I don't know. I think it's just kind of corporations are a strange thing to me. It's a bizarre concept that somebody came up with. Let's create this extra person here that's recognized under law. That's not alive. It's just it's an imaginary person that represents this organization here.
Yeah, and if they're selling stock, then they're representing perhaps thousands upon thousands of people,
stockholders, right? Mm-hmm. Right. And so then, and if it's a for-profit, then they kind of have a responsibility to do things that are profitable for the stockholders. Or is it a not-for-profit or a non-profit? The goal is not to make money. The goal is to provide this particular service. And, we take donations, we do food drives, we do bake sales, whatever it might be to make money. But the goal is not to make a profit. The goal is to provide this service. And so there's a difference.
It's not a service that serves the community. It's like serves members, like a chess club or a HOA is a not-for-profit. A nonprofit is different because a nonprofit
is a charity, I suppose.
Is serves a public mission, like the Cancer Society, Habitat for Humanity. A lot of hospitals, churches are nonprofits, but not-for-profit is like your HOA, or a club, and then clearly your profit is like Walmart.
Yeah, not-for-profit. They still take money from you, and somebody makes a profit.
Whether they
off
say
of it.
they're not-for-profit, not-profit, unprofit, whatever.
But
do they get at the end of the year, or are they at zero?
They don't have to be at zero, because if like a membership organization, they just keep the money and they keep putting it into the membership. That's a not-for-profit.
Okay, like carrying money over into the next year is
you're
important.
using it for the members of that
money in January.
Yes,
Right.
So if it's like a homeowners association, maybe they mow the grass around the entrance, and maybe there's a fence all the way around the whole.
They don't get to keep the money and divvy it out. They're using the money over the however long you live there to pay it. Yeah.
If the homeowners
I still think it's a misnomer if you're ending up with more money than you began with.
Ultimately, I mean, if you want to run an effective nonprofit, you hire someone who's a really great CEO to help grow that, to help do great things within the community,
and use that money effectively.
Well, that's what you're doing with it.
You're going to have to pay that guy money, right? Sure. And he's not going to want a little bit because he knows he can make it elsewhere. And if you want to grow your nonprofit to help the most people, then you're going to pay that guy.
You may have to pay him quite a bit,
right?
And the thing is, leadership can be incredibly valuable. If you have a $1 billion nonprofit, it might be worthwhile for you to spend $10 million a year to get a good CEO,
right?
Because it may mean that twice as many people will be helped with your
not
services.
Many nonprofits make that much money.
What's that?
Not many nonprofits
probably
make
not.
that much
Probably
money.
not. But
no, I know not.
That giant corporations understand this too. Is that good leadership can pay really good dividends,
right?
And so, so you pay someone, a really good CEO, $30 million a year, but he turns the company around by the tune of $2 billion.
Right.
That's a really good investment.
It's worth it.
It is really worth it. And people will say, well, nobody's worth that kind of money. Yeah. Well, he kept 40,000 people from losing their jobs.
Right. Yeah, I'll be the first to admit that I don't know the answer to your question a minute ago because I've never run one on that level. Mm-hmm. Could I do it effectively? I wouldn't gamble on that, right?
I do run one.
But can I? Well, I mean...
I've done it for 15 years, the same nonprofit.
Right.
Now we don't have.
But none of us in here have ever been able to demonstrate that we're worth $10 million a year.
Exactly.
No,
that's exactly
but
I can
like I said, most nonprofits don't make $10 million a year. There was a big deal. I don't know if you remember the Meals on Wheels last year was a big deal, where she was making $400,000, and that was a lot for a nonprofit.
Sure. No,
so nonprofits don't make that kind of money.
Something big like the Red Cross. Or
There's
there's
a certain amount that you can only spend on salaries. I mean, there's IRS rules.
Well, that may be, but the reality is that good leadership is incredibly valuable, and it can make sense to even from a nonprofit standpoint, it can make sense to spend money, even a lot of money, on leadership, growth. Because is it?
But if you're spending more money on the leadership than you are the mission, then that's a problem.
Well,
and you can't do that.
Yeah. It certainly sounds like one.
That's a cost benefit thing.
Well, I mean, you have to put, when they say nonprofit, you can make a profit, but you have to put it back into the programs, the education, the outreach. And a lot of the times, like with the nonprofit that I help manage, we put it back into conference. We go do a Hill Day in DC. You're not paying out program.
You're not paying dividends to stockholders.
No.
In most businesses, the most of the budget goes to paying the people.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's
a big chunk. Depends on the type of business.
So far greater chunk.
Depends on what type.
But a lot of people that work in the nonprofits that don't get paid like $450,000, they do a lot more work than what they get paid to do, and because it's a passion.
And that's kind of the nature of nonprofits in a lot of cases. Sometimes you have people that they're millionaires. They still do kind of grunt work at a nonprofit. It's kind of neat because they're doing stuff that's worth $15 an hour. They're sweeping floors at the nonprofit, but they've got a $900,000 home that they live in, and they've got a portfolio. What's that?
That's called charity.
Charity, right? It is.
That is charity. That's where the word charity comes
purpose,
in.
right?
Yeah.
For the person, it's called purpose because, I mean, let's face it, you can make all the money in the world, but if you aren't doing anything worthwhile with it, then who are you? Right?
And it could be that, okay, so you're really financially backing this charity, but you also want to stick around and be on site, see what's going on. And so sweeping the floors could be one of the ways you do that.
Right.
Even though financially speaking, you'd be better off. Okay, I'm just going to donate another $20,000 this year and pay someone to sweep the floors.
Well, a lot of people do it too, because a lot of retired folks do the nonprofit
They're
because
bored.
they don't, and they don't have anything else they don't work. And when you stop learning and you stop working, that's when you start going downhill.
Sure. No,
I've seen it with my grandpa, and my dad. Like once you stop that, you go downhill.
I think it makes a lot of sense to do that, but
the best nursing home I've seen has been a nonprofit. That? Yeah, because they're not there for profit, so they're not focused on. They're focused on the taking care of older folks in that nursing home. But
you got to have someone motivated to be there.
That's right,
and to want to keep it going. Otherwise, for profit is a good way to motivate people to provide good services. But one of the problems that I think we have, like with nursing homes, is that it's so dominated by government. There's not a free market for nursing home care because
restrictions.
Almost all of it's paid for by government, and so then you've got
there's a lot of retirement homes that are not paid for by government.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of long-term facilities that are not paid for by government.
Right.
There are some, but I think the vast majority of elder care is paid for by government once they get to that level.
You can't have.
There are some, obviously.
You understand that you cannot have any assets.
Well, I know, but a lot of people fit that category.
A lot of people in this country have assets.
They do.
And so it's not just poor people.
Well, you're right. It's not all. But
a lot of them will sell it off, but you can't even give it away. Like you've
got to do it.
Come
sooner.
to zero, or they get, or the.
What is it? 5 years before you go into a nursing home, you have
to put it in a trust.
You have to
put it. You can put it in a trust or things of that nature. But if you don't, then the nursing home gets it. And
so there are obviously there's millions of people out there that won't qualify for government assistance in the same way, but there's probably tens of millions that do qualify. So they're going to be
if you're on Medicare and Medicaid, yeah.
Yeah, there's this one thing. My wife worked in the nursing home industry as a social worker for 30-something years, and I can tell you this: she said the people that are private pay, those are the ones that still have a lot of assets like that in their name. they get the same care, the same rooms type, everything like that as somebody that's on Medicaid or Medicare, on Medicaid. And what happens is that a lot of people are doing just like I said, and I was talking about, it's putting it in a trust, put everything in a trust, and do that 5-year look back. I guess that's the wrong one. 5-year look back and getting everything out of their name.
Then they'll get
because when they do
right?
become age eligible to go into a retirement home, then they go in under the Medicaid program and the government pays for it.
So let's say they've got $3 million in assets. They put that into a trust. They finally get in bad enough shape they need to go in a nursing home. The kids get the $5 million, get the assets, and the older person goes into a nursing home and the government pays for it.
Well, what happens if the person dies? I mean, aren't kids going to get assets anyway?
I mean, what happens if that person earned it? What if they were a veteran, and they earned that?
Well, they may get it. They may get it regardless of their income at that point. But you've got people that technically they don't qualify, but because they've reconfigured their assets into a trust or whatever it might be, maybe they've given them away to their children and early enough, so now they qualify for free nursing home care. It's kind of sneaky. I don't necessarily blame them for doing it, but it is kind of sneaky. And now they're quote unquote entitled to this free care, even though they've got several $1 million socked away somewhere.
Talking about the trust thing too. It also protects you, keeps the government from getting your money too.
Your family trust, that's a very important, that's a very smart thing to do.
I'd recommend anybody to you really need to go to an elder care type thing and look at what it takes to do a trust.
You should do that before you hit that age, because you don't have, here's the thing, like Wayne said, it protects you. You don't have to pay inheritance tax. Mm-hmm. Your kids already, we need to get somebody on to talk about this, Dave, because it is very important. Like your kids already are on the trust. So there's none of that when you pass away or when you need to go to a nursing home. There's a gun trust that you can put your guns in. Yes. And your kids have access to them as long as they're not felons or whatever. They can have access
and
to them.
Some of the stuff for guns is if you want to have special class 3 type weapons or whatever.
Any weapon.
There's also
that you have that they want to inherit.
People need to understand that there's different types of trust too.
Yes.
You have an irrevocable trust, and then you have a revocable trust, and then you have some other things like property. What do they call that? Land trust. Mm-hmm. They have land trusts that you can put in there. So look into those tools and understand how they can play into basically passing it down where the government doesn't get your money and where the nursing home doesn't end up with all your assets as well. Because when you go into a nursing home, there's a lot of rules. And my wife was pretty up on a lot of this. At one time, and I think it's probably changed a little bit, you had to have an irrevocable trust back when I did it. And that you need to have everything out of your name, period. But the revocable trust now is I think they do the same thing. It says if you have a revocable trust, it's not going to, when you go into a nursing home or into a retirement home, that it's not going to do this. I'm not sure about that rule, but I do know the irrevocable trust, getting everything out of your name, you still get to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you still got the property. You're still using it until the trust is invoked.
All right, we got to get a final break in. Let's do that. Then we'll come back, wrap it up for the 9 o'clock hour, and have one more hour of interesting talk coming up in just a moment.
In the world of generators, trust, not marketing, defines success.
and get ready for the final hour. So if you listen to politicians like Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders and New York Democrat, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, there's a constant drumbeat that they use. And how about the rich don't pay their fair share? Or we don't need any oligarchs. You'll hear them say that a lot. They're powerful sound bites, but they're also among the most intellectually lazy phrases in modern economics. Because here's the big question when you say things like that. What exactly is fair? How much do you need to take from a billionaire that he's supposed to live on so that he's paying his fair share? Mm-hmm. How much should you have to give to the government so you will be paying your fair share? You start with the facts, which many people don't like to discuss, and not feelings. Get the feelings out of it for a moment. Just go to the facts of what we just were talking about. According to data from the Internal Revenue Service and the Tax Foundation, the top 1% of earners already pay roughly 40% or more of all federal income taxes. The top 10%, closer to 70%. Meanwhile, about 50% of Americans pay little to no federal income tax each year. So when you say they should pay their fair share, what is fair? And that's what we're going to talk about in the next hour. What's the definition of fair? And I want all of you people out there who's ever said that, well, he's got $1 million. He needs to pay his fair share. What do you mean by that? Mm-hmm. What are you saying? There's a thing in Bible college called systematic theology. And it's knowing the reason why you believe what you believe.
Establish your premises, establish the principles, and then we're going to add them together. And what's the conclusion?
That's exactly right. We're going to talk about that in the last hour. And I bet you a lot of you will not use they need to pay their fair share ever again if you'll be intellectually honest. Back with the Dave Ellswick Show, the 10 o'clock hour here in just about 60 seconds. Final hour of a Monday edition of the Dave Ellswick Show. Power panel is here. That means Paul Calvert is sitting right next to me. Wayne Beach is sitting one down from him. And across the table is, Chris. Chris is here, too, talking with us. I want you guys to listen. I left you last hour, told you what we're going to kind of talk about. Here's Bill Maher over the weekend. Here's what he had to say.
I still don't get it. Last week was tax day, and as usual, because HBO is so generous, and I'm sure so will be the new owners, I paid to the government, if you add in state tax, local sales, property, fees, Obamacare, probably almost 60% of what I earn. That's a lot, and I still wouldn't mind if Bernie Sanders would stop saying the rich don't pay taxes.
And this is my point. This is going to be my point.
And while I'm sure the super rich with their army of accountants and corporate loopholes get away with murder, us regular rich people pay a shit ton of taxes.
All right. Rich are paying, I'm just going to say crap load. All right.
I don't know what happened with that audio. Sorry about that.
Of taxes. Mayor proceeded then to call out Democratic Socialists at large, first pointing to a Los Angeles Times opinion piece stating that the top 10% of earners pay 72% of all taxes, while the bottom half of earners pay roughly 3% of all the taxes. Quote, the Democratic Socialists talk about socialism like we don't already have a lot, he continued, pointing to government-funded programs like Social Security, unemployment, Medicare, SNAP, and more. Not against it, just the same question, he says. How can you be soaking the rich and failing the poor so badly? He added, earning applause from the audience. The IRS reportedly amassed more than $5 trillion last year in 2025, a number that Mayor brought to mind when ripping government failures to adequately care for the poor. More specifically, Mayor pointed to remote area medical, RAM, services designed to provide free medical, dental, and vision attention to those living in underserved areas. Quote, are we really this incompetent and corrupt? Wait, don't answer that, he quipped. Whatever it is, somehow the ultra-rich keep getting ultra-richer. All right. Ultra-richer. And the poor keep getting poorer. So, he's asking some great questions here. He said, this is, you got to talk about this with the, with the point of the facts of the matter, not the emotion that's going. And the socialists can sell you, ice in the Antarctic.
So what's the principle though? How much is my fair share?
No, that's the question he asked.
Yeah. But what?
Don't tell him that he doesn't pay taxes.
But what are the bases? And we talked earlier about what are the principles, what are the premises involved? How do we determine if I'm paying my fair share of taxes? What makes it fair versus unfair? And so let's say I'm fairly skilled. I have quite a few skills. I can make pretty good money, especially if I put myself to it. And what if I decide, I want to be lazy, so I don't make very much money? And then I don't pay any taxes because I don't qualify for paying federal income taxes because I get my income so low that everything gets returned to me during April for tax return season or earlier. am I paying my fair share if I don't work hard enough to make all that money where I'd pay taxes? Am I, or so what if the flip side of that is I do work hard. I do put in a lot of hours. And so I make $200,000 a year, whatever it is. If I was
above
to really,
average money.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, above average for Arkansas, especially. I don't think I make quite that much. But the thing is that if I really was to put effort out, I probably could make that much or more. And then I would be paying federal taxes for sure. Then what would be fair then? Does my fair share go up because I'm more productive?
Absolutely. By the rules.
By the rules it does. But is there a moral principle that requires me that suggests that I should pay more because I worked harder instead of being lazy? Do I owe less because I was lazy? That's absurd. That seems absurd. But by the rules, like you said, I work harder. If I'm not lazy, I owe more money. That seems dumb to me.
Well, when you talk about working harder, I think at that point you leave yourself open for the counter argument of, well, what about the people who inherited their money because of somebody before them, not them, but somebody before them worked harder. Now they don't do any work whatsoever. They work off of what the other person made, not what they make.
Let me ask that question to that person. Okay, so that person's like, well, it's not fair that you got that money was given to you. Wait, so what if I give you $50,000? Should you be allowed to keep it? And they're like, of course I should be allowed to keep it.
No,
right?
no. See, you're apples and oranges here now. No. I'm not going to let you get away with it, Paul. You try to get away with this kind of crap all the time. Okay. The bottom line is, if somebody is from a wealthy family and they get an inheritance of millions and millions of dollars, that's not like you giving somebody $50,000 and whether they should keep it. That's a gift. That's not an inheritance.
But
that's
both of them are gifts because what's that?
That's what your family worked for. It's not just a gift.
Well, but the family's going to give it to you. They could blow it all before they die. I mean, that's just how that works. Those that
no, look, see, Paul, this is what I say about it. You can't just make a statement like, well, that's just the way it is. No, we're talking specifically here about people that didn't raise a finger ever to get that money. It was just given. And I'm not arguing from the point. I think you should be able to give the money away and there's no problem with it. But I said you would leave yourself open up to that attack. And that is a legitimate attack that I just said.
I think people throw around the phrase pay your fair share, but nobody ever really stops to define what it means. Like, is fair the same percentage for everybody?
No, that's why I asked the question.
Right. So some people believe if you make more, you should pay more, right?
Yeah, well, what's their fair share? What's their fair share,
people are already being punished. But, if you think about it, though, things that get lost in the conversation is like everybody's paying taxes on everything. When you go to buy gas, when you go to pay your phone bill, you pay your electric bill. I mean, I'm sitting right here paying taxes.
To do a fair share.
Well, I mean, you're paying taxes. People are paying taxes. And rich people buy more things.
You did not answer my question.
Well, it depends on the person that the fair share is, I believe.
It's not a fair share.
The opinion of the fair share. No, I don't mean.
That's what it is.
I don't mean the fair share.
Wayne's exactly right.
Is the person. I mean the opinion of what fair share is.
I think
depends on the person you're asking.
It's a mantra. It's not a numbers thing. It's a mantra.
Right. It's not a mathematical. Yeah.
It's a buzzword and an idea that sets up the class warfare thing.
That's exactly right. It's a mantra for ones that says, I'm not making it as good as somebody else.
I want some of his stuff.
That's one of our principles in the Republican Party is that your property is private property. It belongs to you. Doesn't belong to anybody else, including the government. And that includes your money, your land, whatever. Your house.
So with everything else in life, how do I determine if you owe me money? If I provide a service to you when you ask me for it, then you owe me money, right?
Right.
But just the fact that you have money doesn't entitle me to any of it. That's the reality, is that the fact that you have something doesn't entitle me to have it, to take some of it.
Exactly and that's what I mean by it is determined. That definition is individualized. If you ask a Democrat, it's a different answer. If you ask a Libertarian, it's a different answer. If you ask a Republican, it's a different answer.
But it's an undefinable term.
Right. Because
unless you look at it from a justice perspective of, Wayne, do I owe you any money?
Well, only if you want to.
Well, but but the reality is, I don't owe you any. You don't have any idea how much money I have. I don't have any idea. Right. You didn't provide me with any services, and so I don't owe you any money. You haven't saved my life. You haven't prevented anybody from murdering me. Yep. Arguably, the government has prevented people from murdering. Arguably, so there's an argument that I owe them some money for that service.
That's right.
But how much do I owe them for it?
I don't know. I think
does that number change if I make more money or less money?
I think it's an entitlement issue.
It's an entitlement issue.
Like this debate's never going to end, and it's a political debate. It's the politicians have come up with this just to get votes, honestly, because there is no.
It's a mantra.
There is no one number.
It's exactly what
Wayne said. Give me a definition of fair share.
It's a mantra. It can't be defined outside of some real metrics like what we just talked about.
Right.
Wayne, do I owe you money because you provided a service to me?
It's almost like saying, I feel this way. When you say put feel in that sentence, or you put I believe, well, that's your
Wayne,
opinion.
I think the only way you could define it is if you just calculated how much each person uses of the taxes. That's the only way that you could define it.
That would become a lot closer.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
and so what you might end up
services,
with is,
then you're not paying your fair share.
What you might end up with is a lot of poor people owe a whole lot of money to the government.
Yeah.
Because they're using the services.
But then maybe they should get out and volunteer and do some volunteer work for that. That's what I think.
And if you go to the person who has more and tell them, well, because you have more, you got to pay more. So what's your fair share of the more you're making?
See, I disagree with that, because I don't think that just because you make more, you should pay that's just like when people get Social Security and they make millions of dollars and they're like, well, you shouldn't get that. Well, why shouldn't I? I earned it.
No, I agree.
Like I should, if I want to give it away to someone, I should be able to do that.
Sure.
But it's mine. I earned it. You don't take it away just because I make more money. That's wrong.
Like
that's socialism when you're doing that.
I think he does donate it somewhere, but
I guarantee you
the last time I started paying real super, what I consider much higher taxes, was when I started getting my Social Security. Now I was taxed so they could have that Social Security to pay other people that were on the Social Security system at that time.
They stole it from you.
Now I pay it on money that I make because I make too much money, they say,
isn't that ridiculous?
To get the full amount of my Social Security.
That's just another way for them to take from you and give to someone else.
That's double taxation.
Because you're working and other people are sitting on their butt.
Yeah, but I'm stating how it is, really.
I know, but it's wrong.
I pay close to about $3,000 a year. Doesn't sound like much. $3,000 still to me is a lot of money. And I pay it only because I'm getting money that I supposedly was working to help put into the system.
Yeah.
And now I don't get that money because
that's why it's a joke.
They're taxing it. The only part of my taxes that Social Security really isn't taxed would be the state of Arkansas. They do not tax Social Security. All right. They see that as double taxation.
Just like they don't take taxes out for you being a veteran either. So, if you're receiving any kind of
So what's an effective way to counteract this mantra of, well, the rich don't pay their fair share? Because it's a soundbite that kind of resonates with dumb people.
It resonates very well with people who don't have a lot.
That's right.
And that is because you've not done what's necessary to have a lot.
It resonates well with the majority. Is the problem.
I think you're probably right.
That's even better.
That's why it works. That's why I mean.
But it's because the majority are easily duped.
Well, and the majority of the people,
they're covetous.
You got a herd mentality here.
Don't have as much money as this lesser number of people who do.
Sure. Yeah,
right?
Think about it for a second. What we're saying is not tax policy. What we're saying is you feel this way.
It's your perception.
You don't have any facts to back up your argument. I got more facts to back up on my argument than you'll ever have.
But their argument is not based on facts. Their argument is
that's my biggest argument with the left.
Yeah, no, it's not about facts. It's about you have more money than me. I want some of yours.
That's right.
That's socialism.
Which is covetousness. I mean, it's just I want your stuff. I want the government to steal it for me on my behalf.
The
entitlement.
That's what we've created.
They're stupid little brats is what they are.
Look, a lot of people didn't like Hoover, right? A lot of people didn't like Hoover as president. He actually is one of my favorite presidents. You know why? Because during the Great Depression, he did not want to do what FDR came in and did with the New Deal, because he knew that he would create a society of people that were dependent on the government, and people hated him for it. But he was absolutely right. And he's a lot of times he is one that doesn't get mentioned, but he was absolutely right, and he called it.
Well, here's the key. The key of this is we're not talking about tax policy. We're talking about politics.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what we're talking. Yeah, we're talking about politics.
Words, propaganda.
Yep. A whole lot of that.
If I give you something, I'm buying your vote, right?
That's right. Well, no, taxpayers are buying your vote.
Yeah, I give you something. I give you something with somebody else's money.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Ayn Rand was really a great thinker, and she always said that you should never vote for tax, to raise your taxes, because you're voting against yourself.
It's
and I agree with her. You're voting against yourself. Now, she went far enough to say that she didn't believe that people should be altruistic, didn't believe that people should give away money to people who didn't have money. I don't believe that way. I believe that just like Spider-Man, to those who are given much is required.
Give it to help them learn how to make their own.
Well, I'm not saying whatever which way you want to do it. I'm just saying. Well, she said that altruism was wrong.
Well, because it doesn't help people fend for themselves. Well, in any way.
Or altruism can, but stealing from people and using it for government programs is different than altruism. I mean, so altruism is like teaching someone to fish. I'm going to be a nice guy.
No, she's talking about monetarily, though.
No, that's not what she was talking about.
It's the same thing.
She's talking about whatever you give outside of your life experiences.
Oh,
to folks. I mean, that's in her whole treatise on capitalism. I
want charge them.
No, you should. You pay what you pay on your income tax and whatnot. You work to get income taxes lowered, because government shouldn't be able to take more from you just because you make more.
Right. I think the solution to this is basically just like they've been doing is. You don't eat the whole elephant at one bite.
Right. And that's, you have to establish some premises.
Right. But you
got to move it from not talking about tax policy to only talking about tax policy, not using it as a political cudgel to beat somebody over their head with.
And if you move too fast, a lot of times, like a lot of programs, you move too fast, what happens? You end up having a pushback.
You'll pass people up. But establishing the premises is part of the issue that we need to do. And a lot of times we don't. We try to say, well, you're just stupid, and rich should pay fewer taxes.
Okay, so think about that just for a second. Hold on. 25 after 10. Let's get a break in, and we'll come back to Paul and let him finish up. Keep your thought in mind, all right? Don't look at me and say, what was your next question? All right, well, Paul, pick it up here next on the Dave Ellswick Show.
Concerned about market risk? I'm Ference Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. The S&P 500
Okay, back. Paul, I said I'd come right back to you.
So
you know where you're
so
at.
Part of the problem here is that when dealing with this issue, a lot of times it's like, well, you're just stupid, and we're talking about the issue of the you don't pay your fair share. Rather than addressing the issue and kind of bringing things back to earth, it's like, well, you're just stupid. You're speaking nonsense. Let's actually bring it back to earth. What is fair? Define some terms. Let's actually start out. What does it mean to pay your fair share? And let's talk about this in a rational manner. And so, what if your neighbor? Let's say this person we're talking to, this lefty, is making $40,000 a year. Your neighbor's making $10,000 a year. How much of your money is he entitled to? What's his fair share?
0, of course.
Sure, exactly.
And walk into his house and he's got 5
Right.
flat screen TVs, and you take 2 of them.
Exactly.
They're going to take you and
Right.
put your butt in jail.
But the same people, they think, well, this guy over here, he's making a lot more money than I am. I'm entitled to some of his money. Well, why? Why are you entitled to his, but this other guy over here is not entitled to yours?
All right. We got 10 seconds, then we got the news, then we'll come back. I like this so much, we'll continue talking about it when we come back here on the Dave Ellswick Show.
With SRN News,
This has turned into an interesting discussion. This is the kind of stuff you get when you come to my house. And we're just sitting around and tossing things out that you get into these kinds of discussions. Understand that the word fair, as it is used today, is an emotional word. It is not a factual word, because unless you can tell me exactly how much is fair, then it could be anything.
Yeah, you need some hard numbers to define it. Chris had an interesting point that he was going to bring up on that, and it was, I think it's really spot on. It's really, really profound on some level.
I'm talking about, go ahead and pick it up.
So I remember I read the big, beautiful bill before it was put in front of Congress, and I looked at all the tax numbers, and it laid it out there, and I got to thinking about where I stood versus where people who made less than me and more than me, and the easiest and most in-your-face example for someone with money, in my opinion, is Elon Musk. And so when I thought about...
He's the richest man in the world.
Right.
He's the first trillionaire.
Right. So when you think about a guy like that, when we start applying numbers to it, let's put numbers to it, right? A guy like that paying in 1% of his income is more money than all of us will pay in taxes
in our lifetime.
If we gave 100% for all of our
long time,
right?
For all of our lifetime.
So what is fair? And then when you take and you step back from that, well, what am I going to do with that money if I had more? And for most people, I think the answer is bigger house, nicer car, things like that. And for Elon Musk, he's doing things with it. He's making nicer cars for everyone, right?
Sure.
He's trying to save the world.
He's providing internet service to places where you can't
would
get it.
Never have it, right? And things that are going to impact the world, and that the world is going to grow from. I'm not doing things that important, guys. I'm just not. And that goes back.
I want to disagree with you to a point. If you buy a truck, how many people have jobs because you're buying a truck?
Sure.
If you buy a home, how many people are you paying that you bought the home?
Engaging in commerce, it does everybody good.
Right.
But you're also paying
how
taxes
many people engage in commerce because of what Elon Musk does, right? How many people does he employ who are paid very well and ultimately they engage in commerce and the economy grows because of it. He
but
just does it on
taking the risk
a higher level.
to have that business.
To kind of bring this back together, your question is, okay, so let's say you make $1 billion a year, and you're gonna reinvest that. Every bit of it, just about. I mean, like 97% of anything that you make is going to be reinvested into productive things. Other people are going to get jobs out of it. People's lives are just going to be improved. But the guy who's over here making $35,000 a year, everything that he can spare, he's going to buy beer with it.
Often, I know that for me, as I have grown in business, the more I made, the more I invested back into my business to grow it. And ultimately, yes, the vast majority of that money went to paying people.
I've done the same thing with a lot of my money that I've made over the years is that I don't spend it on myself.
Right.
For the vast majority of the extra that I spend, it goes back into the business to build the business. I don't go to Disney World.
Right.
I don't take big expensive vacations. I think one of my newest
you just
car,
had
I
a
think, is a
kid.
2012.
You're about to.
Even the poorest person, if you buy a loaf of bread, you're part of the. Even if you buy a loaf of bread, you're part of the. You're part of the economy.
Sure.
You're churning. You're
right.
helping somebody keep a job. Okay.
You are helping somebody, right? But you're not necessarily being innovative
What
to
happens
the same
is
level
the
like
difference
we're talking
that
about.
You have government competition, and that gets involved in that. When the government starts spending money, which is your money,
right?
That's you're competing against regular.
Sure. And a lot of times the government competition is something that is misallocating resources. And so when Chris and I provide services to the world around us. I don't know what kind of services he offers all around, but we compete with the rest of the world around us. And so we're offering services that people want and need at a market rate that settles out, that levels out. Competitively,
You
right.
have to be. Right.
But when the government does it, so the government will steal $40 million from taxpayers in a local city, and they'll build a recreational facility. And then if I had a recreational facility already built, I have to compete with money they stole from me, and I can't compete because I'm charging an entry fee.
Paul's stealing my example,
right? And so the local citizens say, you know what? I don't have to pay Paul anymore for his gym membership because
So
I
you
can
just cut somebody out.
Right. So what they did was they used government money to overrun me because they could spend $40 million on a facility. I didn't have that much money to spend on mine, so obviously mine's not near as nice, and I have to compete with free.
Yeah, well, you go. I use Cabot as a perfect example. It's where I live, and there's several health clubs, as we called them, that have gone out of business in Cabot. Why? Well, the city of Cabot, I think under Billy, decided to build a senior citizen center. It included a multi-thousands of dollars weightlifting area. It included places that you could play handball and squash. It included basketball courts. It included a pool and a whole lot of other things. And the other for-profit places couldn't compete. It's one thing to compete against somebody else who's in the market. It's another thing when you're competing against a government entity who doesn't worry where they're going to get the money from. They just go get the money from the people that are part of their community.
And I see the same thing too. And whenever when I hear this thing called quality of life projects, I want to know why doesn't an investor come in and put in that indoor pool or indoor water park?
Because there's not enough people that are going to use it to turn a profit.
It's expensive. You're going to have to pay for it. And it's not just the building of it. You're going to have to pay to maintain it.
That's right.
You're going to have to pay all those people to maintain it. It's just like whenever they say, okay, we have this problem in government, and they put in a department or whatever to take care of it, take care of that problem. But they never go back. Once that problem's fixed, they never go back and say, okay, let's back off to a maintenance level. Because it doesn't take as much to do it. And then you got the bureaucrats that are in there. They're actually saying, man, we got to justify our jobs. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they go in and they actually write new code or new requirements and that sort of thing.
They make themselves give them some busy work or something.
That's right.
I'll argue against you there a little bit, Paul, and say that having been involved in government, there are very few things I believe that private entities can't do better than government. And you can compete with them. You can't compete with the money because they have a free investment and you have one that costs, but you can offer a better product, a better service, and not spend nearly as much money as they did to get it repeatedly. That can be done. We can beat them on providing a better product and service.
I always thought it was interesting in Cabot that if you went to use the gym and all of that,
they still charge you.
They charged you so much per month to be able to go. And my question to that is that you took my money to build the damn
and you
thing.
still don't let you use it.
Now I can't use it unless I pay you more money.
Yeah. They just built a big swimming pool facility thing there in Conway, and I think if you're a resident, it costs you $7 to attend. If you're not a resident of the city of Conway, even though you pay taxes in Conway because you shop there all the time, I think it's $12 to attend. It's like, and they stole money from you to build the thing in the first place.
I wish it was only $12 in Cabot, but it's a whole lot more than that.
No, this is for one day. This is just to show up for one day. And I think the monthly memberships, it's a lot. I can't remember. It's $60, $70 a month or something like that. Maybe more than that.
See, I look at Texas like from this perspective, like money, not just money leaving your account or your check or whatever you're making, like it's literally hours of your existence. Would we be okay if the governor called us to the Capitol to work for free and made us do it? Because that's literally basically the same.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's. And
slavery. I don't think people would be okay with that because they're literally stealing your happiness.
So what's interesting is that I've actually suggested that as an alternative to taxes. Like either you pay the annual fee or you work.
We shouldn't have to do either.
What's that?
We shouldn't have to do either.
Well, so if we're going to have government, somebody's got to pay for it.
And we have to have government. Look, there's a reason we have the strongest military in the world. No one owns us right now.
So cut out everything else because that's the only thing that's the only thing this union was created for. State taxes is different. This union was created to protect the American citizens.
Someone's still got to pay for the protection services. And so how do we get that money if we can't convince people to voluntarily donate it, which I think we maybe could if we tried that. If you can't get them to donate it voluntarily, then you got to forcibly collect it. And there's you either take their money or you make them work. That's kind of the only options you have.
But it still goes back to the waste, fraud, and abuse issue.
Exactly.
Is that you're sending money to other countries for gender.
Sure, and that's
you're sending my time to other countries,
and that reduces, and the waste, fraud, and abuse reduces the available resources to us, but it doesn't answer the question about how do you get the money in the first place? How do you get any money? And it's got to either come through taxation, voluntary donation, or we're going to capture you and make you work for us for 2 months out of the year or whatever. Slavery. Right. Which is taxation is a form of slavery. Subjugation.
It's legalized.
It's legalized.
We have
tariffs. That's how you get it.
Right.
That's taxation too, though.
From other countries.
That's from us. But.
Yeah. What's the cost benefit when we send money to other countries like that, and especially countries that don't like us, countries that want to kill us? Why are we still sending money to those other countries? That was my big question.
I don't know. It seems ridiculous. Why would you give them welfare? Why would you give any other country welfare?
Do you know that we give millions of dollars a year to China?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
I believe
that's what I'm saying. Cut out everything else except for the military.
He said,
I'll pay taxes for the military.
Says we're going to cut your water off, and that's what you have to do because we're not your daddy, and that's what we have to do to this country. Says okay, and they use it as a carrot to basically agree with us, and so we build a rapport with them. But the thing is whenever they're not even paying for their own protection, and
so they need to be paying us taxes if we're providing them with free security.
That's exactly why.
I think that's reasonable. I mean, the British should probably pay us taxes every year.
That's what a tariff is, Paul. And you just said that was nonsense.
No, tariff.
But do you realize that our country was founded on tariffs?
Well, I don't
That's
disagree.
literally, there was no tax system. That's a modern thing.
Taxes, so.
Like we literally created this country on tariffs, and foreign product entering our country got taxed.
I understand.
Hence
but
the
tariffs
Boston
are
Tea
still
Party.
Taxes.
But the tax system is modern. That's not how we started out.
Yeah, and
I don't disagree. That's not how we started out, but tariffs are still taxes.
What, 1921?
But it's a tax if you buy that thing. That's what people don't understand. You're raising taxes by tariffs. No, if I don't buy it, I don't have to pay a tax.
Job, you don't have to pay taxes either. But the thing is that taxes are still taking money from people by force. I mean, it's whether you do it through tariffs or sales taxes and tariffs.
You're not forcing me to buy tea if I don't want to. That way, I don't pay a tax.
They'll come up with other ways of taking your money if it doesn't work through tariffs.
If I don't use the things that they pay tax on, I don't pay taxes, right?
Okay, with that, we'll take a break, and we'll come back in just a moment here on the Dave Ellswick Show. Glad you're joining us today. 1011, The Answer.
There's a real battle going on, not only for our future, but that of our children and grandchildren.
Look, I'm still thawing out and living up north. I tell people that all the time. They don't believe me. Hey, look, you've lived in minus 20-degree winters.
I can't imagine.
I can tell you, you're still thawing out.
I have been in some of that weather like that. Man alive, that really is cold. Like you can feel the hair in your nose freezing.
It's painful.
It's terrible.
It's painful. I thought I had been in cold weather until I moved to North Dakota
and then
for a year.
Then you see 40 and 50 below zero.
60 below.
60.
Real air temperature of 60 below zero.
Ooh, I'm just trying to get used to this.
Yeah, cold. Yeah, it's dry cold.
Again, from Florida, I'm just trying to get used to this.
Yeah, it's really
all cold at that level is dry.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, you can stand dry cold.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Wet cold.
No,
like Alaska was dry cold.
Yeah, I can tell you, being a duck hunter, and I've been out there where it would just,
moisture,
you're standing in water up to your waist or up to your knees or your waist, and
the ducks don't land because they hear your teeth chattering
and your bones creaking.
You're sitting there, you kind of warm up whenever ducks do come in. When they do come in, you kind of get a little warm spot there.
Well, that's the adrenaline killing all the pain that you have been feeling.
Yeah, that's
what sawing your finger out so you can pull the trigger.
Yeah, well, I come back in, and my wife, she, I'm taking my jacket off and trying to warm up in the house, and she'll feel my back and say, "This is solid ice. It's cold." She'll look at my mustache and my beard and stuff, and I'll have ice on my beard and mustache.
Terrible.
Absolutely, but
it was fun.
What's the price of fun?
It's fun. That's right.
And you got to pay a tax on that too.
Yeah, you got to pay a special fee depending on what kind of duck you're going to hunt.
Right. Until you reach a certain age, and you get a lifetime license and lifetime, duck stamp, for state duck stamp and all the other things. That helps.
So if your state starts talking about, euthanasia, it's because they're trying to save money to bring the ducks in.
Do what?
Euthanasia on the ducks or people?
Up in Canada,
yeah, they're going. Canada, it's gaining a lot of credibility.
I think I saw where.
Yeah, you're right. I've only got about 4 minutes
that's
left.
Deep.
I think I saw where Canada, the 5% of the deaths in Canada are now assisted suicide.
Yes, they are.
Something like that. It's like, oh my!
Imagine going to killing teenagers.
Imagine going to the doctor
that have autism and things of that nature. Yep. They're letting them kill. They're letting a
16-year-old make the decision of whether they think they should live or not.
Imagine going to the doctor and you're having some problems. Have you considered this alternative?
That's what our guest Arthur Weinrab. He was the assistant editor for the Canada Free Press. He literally said that they literally was like, have you thought about this? And it turned out it wasn't what they said it was to begin with, and he was fine. That's crazy to me. Could you imagine a doctor like coming and saying, "Hey, have you thought about killing yourself?" Like, that's just insanity.
It's like, I think it's kind of stupid for a doctor to tell somebody, "Well, you only got 6 months more to live."
Right.
You don't know that.
No.
You don't know
Lots
that.
of people beat the odds.
Yep. I'll agree that if you have, something like pancreatic cancer, your chances of living more than 2 years are very slim.
Yeah.
Because most people aren't around to talk about having pancreatic cancer.
But you're not telling them that you've got this much time.
Yeah.
Right.
You're just not telling them that.
I mean, telling somebody get your affairs in order is different than saying you got 6 months to live.
Right.
Because then I might not get my affairs in order. I might go out and spend money like a crazy man and not pay it back.
Right.
Yeah. We go, well, what if they made a mistake? Yeah. So you go rack up a bunch of credit card debt. And turns out they made a mistake on the diagnosis.
Yeah. I bet you I can't sue them, can I? Yeah, that wouldn't happen.
You're going to sue them for being wrong about your
life expectancy.
But these aren't people. These aren't people over there that they're just. If you want to, you can. Like,
well, in the Netherlands, it's really bad right now.
It's
terrible.
I think it's nonsense though for medical doctors with the oaths they take, and
that's what we asked,
they're supposed to be there to help people and do no harm. And you're gonna recommend they kill themselves?
Yeah.
Well, you can't harm yourself anymore.
Well, I mean, it will.
Maybe the diagnosis was wrong.
Right.
That's what happened in Arthur's case. Yeah.
Right.
They were wrong about his diagnosis, and they'd even offered that already.
They do make wrong diagnoses
all the time. It happens. I mean,
especially if they use
AI.
I
know
Google.
I know a kid who recently got diagnosed with pneumonia, and then they backed off. They're like, maybe it's not pneumonia. Like, imagine scare a parent up like that. Pretty good, right?
Do you want him to go ahead and commit suicide?
Well,
right?
Or do something else.
A kid.
That's
and the sad part is if they offer that to your kid, you can't stop your kid from doing it. Like, that's the sad part.
Understand, like when you're talking about doctors who tell you your child is transsexual. All right, they don't say it that way. What they say is, do you want to have a dead child?
Yeah.
Or do you want to have a live transsexual? That's what they say now. A lot of doctors are saying.
That's the propaganda.
I think that's just the fact that we've got a bunch of charlatans in the psychological medicine industry.
And it's not just psychological.
Yeah, and medical as well,
just,
I suppose.
Well, they're making money off of these surgeries.
A lot of money. A lot of money they make off of it. I mean, have you ever wondered why I can go in and get all my teeth pulled and it costs me maybe a little over $1,000? But if I want to snap in some snap-in dentures, it may cost me $26,000 to $35,000.
Right.
Yikes.
To do just the opposite.
Something to look forward to when you get old, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or like implants are really expensive, I think.
They are, a lot of them. And I mean, I've talked to my dentist, won't say who it is, but I've talked to to the people who run the economy of the facility, and the cheapest set of the dentures that I could get that are, the ones that you can snap in and take out and snap back in or whatever, was $26,000 and something $100.
That's crazy.
Shop it around, Dave.
Give me some wooden teeth.
Shop it around and see what they do it for cash.
Take a trip to South America
Mexico
or something.
Wow, my dental insurance ain't worth squat. You're talking about, you get this and you can spend up to, are you ready? $1,000, and we'll cover it. All right, that's all we got for you today, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Yes,
Wayne,
sir.
always a pleasure. Paul, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Paul will be here next week. Chris, thank you. You're a nice addition to the power panel.
Glad to be here.
On the
Thank
Dave
you.
Ellswick Show. I'll see you on the radio, because we're going to be streaming again tomorrow at 7 a.m. See you then.
Find us at 101.1 FM.